Chapter 2083. The woman gazed at Xiao Ta with a teasing smile in her eyes. A woman and a pagoda. Interesting. Xiao Ta intended to say something, but the woman suddenly turned around. For people were walking over from afar. All of them wore mourning robes and mourning hats, and there was a white talisman stuck between their brows. Beneath the talisman was a rotting face. They were even carrying a gift box. As soon as they appeared, the temperature in the surroundings plummeted as if they'd fallen into a 10,000-year-old freezer. Moreover, a horrifying and strange ghostly tune drifted through the surroundings. It sounded like a child crying, and it carried a trace of desolation. It was extremely horrifying. At this moment, the woman turned around and a red robe appeared on her body. The robe completely concealed her graceful figure. She gazed at the four people with a calm expression on her face. The rotting man in the lead spoke in a hoarse voice, "Zhao Lord, please accept it." The woman's eyes narrowed slightly. "Fuck off." The rotting man bowed slightly. "I'll be taking my leave." As soon as he finished speaking, he placed the gift box down and gazed at Zhou Xian. In the next moment, a ball of black energy swept out from within him and it swept towards Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian's expression changed drastically. "Motherfucker. What's the meaning of this? I told you to fuck off, so why are you hitting me?" At this moment he couldn't attack at all because his soul had been frozen by the woman. Of course, it wasn't that he didn't have a trump card. A strand of sword energy started to tremble within his body. It was the sword energy from his father that he'd seized from Princess Ling. He didn't really want to use it because it was one of his trump cards and he only had one. If he used it, then it would be impossible for him to use it again in the future. Just as Zhou Xian was about to unleash that wisp of sword energy, the woman suddenly flicked her sleeve, and the countless wisps of black gas instantly vanished. The rotting man in the lead looked at the woman. "Zhao Lord, the dead lord said that you can't have another man by your side." The woman stared at the rotting man. "Go back and tell him that the human by his side is my man, understand?" Zhou Xian's face darkened. "Motherfucker." This woman was using him as a shield. Hearing the woman's words, the rotting man frowned slightly. This frown made the rotten flesh on his face feel like it was about to fall off. It was extremely disgusting. The woman slowly clenched her right hand. "If you don't get lost, I'll kill you all." After a moment of silence, the rotting man bowed slightly and left with the other three rotting men. The woman turned to look at Zhou Xian. She sized up Zhou Xian. "What are you doing here?" Zhou Xian thought for a moment and then he said, "I'm here to take a master." "Xiao Ta." The woman frowned. "Apprentice?" Zhou Xian nodded. The woman sized Zhou Xian up and said, "It looks to me like you've come to court death." Zhou Xian was speechless. The woman glanced towards the distance and said, "Let's go back." Zhou Xian quickly said, "All right." With that he turned around and left. "I can't stay here for long. I have to go back and cultivate for a while before returning." Suddenly the woman said, "Wait." Zhou Xian turned around to look at the woman. The green-clothed man's sword energy within Xiao Ta was trembling slightly. The woman spoke indifferently, "You can't leave now." Zhou Xian frowned slightly. "Are you talking about those four guys who are neither human nor ghost?" The woman nodded. Zhou Xian frowned when he heard this. Meanwhile, the woman continued, "They won't let you go even if I protect you." Zhou Xian spoke in a low voice. "Miss, what exactly is this place?" The woman gazed at Zhou Xian. "You didn't even know where this place is, yet you came here?" Zhou Xian laughed with embarrassment. "I was careless. I was careless." The woman shook her head slightly. "I won't kill you. Good luck." As soon as she finished speaking, she turned around and walked off. Zhou Xian hesitated for a moment before he hurriedly followed her. The woman suddenly stopped and turned around to look at Zhou Xian. "Why are you following me?" Zhou Xian hesitated for a moment before he said, "I'm afraid of death." The woman stared at Zhou Xian and didn't speak. Zhou Xian's scalp went numb from her gaze and he hesitated for a moment before he said, "Miss Zhao." The woman suddenly shook her head. "You never mean a word you say. Come with me." As soon as she finished speaking, she walked off into the distance. Zhou Xian hurriedly followed her. It didn't take long for the woman to bring Zhou Xian to an old temple. The temple was situated within a mountain, and it was extremely gloomy. Zhou Xian glanced at the surroundings and felt slightly speechless. This place is like the netherworld. Zhou Xian glanced at the plaque above the ancient temple. There were 3 big black words carved on the plaque. Hongzhou Temple. The woman took Yi Xian into the temple. The temple was very simple. There was a burning bonfire, nothing else. The woman sat in front of the bonfire. She looked at Yi Xian and Yi Xian sat down. He hesitated and said, "Miss Zhao, when you attacked me, why did my sword return to its scabbard?" The woman coldly said, "Reverse time." Yi Xian frowned. "Reverse time?" The woman nodded. Yi Xian was silent. A break world elite could only use the daylight world to speed up the flow of time. This Miss Zhao didn't need to use any time and space to reverse time. Yi Xian looked at the woman. "Miss Zhao, how can you reverse time?" The woman looked at Yi Xian. "Do you know about daylight time and space?" Yi Xian nodded. "It can speed up the flow of time." The woman nodded. "If you can control the time in the daylight world, then you can reverse time." Yi Xian quickly asked, "How do I do that?" The woman said, "Do it." After a moment of hesitation, Yi Xian threw a punch at the woman. However, when he finished his punch, he was shocked to find that his fist had unknowingly shrunk back. The woman said, "I can make time go back to a breath of time. Although it is only a breath of time for elites like us, this breath is enough to change everything." Yi Xian was silent. A breath of time. Like the woman said, although it was only a breath of time, this breath was enough to change everything. As if thinking of something, Yi Xian suddenly said, "Again." The woman looked at Yi Xian. Yi Xian nodded. "Miss, be careful." After saying that, his thumb moved. The green profound sword suddenly slashed out. The moment the green profound sword flew out, the woman's expression changed drastically. Her figure trembled and she retreated thousands of meters away. When she stopped, the temple had been reduced to a pile of dust. Life-severing. This sword domain was different from before. He directly used life-severing. After using life-severing, his sword directly broke the woman's time reversal. Because the woman's time reversal was a breath of time. When his sword slashed down, the time in the area they were in instantly flowed by tens of thousands of years. Smooth. Simply put, he was flowing with time. Just like the woman, he didn't need the daylight world. In the distance, the woman stared at Yi Xian with a solemn expression. "How did you do it?" Yi Xian smiled. "I can communicate with the daylight world." The woman frowned slightly. "Impossible. No divine object can withstand the flow of time in the daylight world." As she said that, she suddenly looked at the green profound sword in Yi Xian's hand. "Your sword can?" Yi Xian nodded. The woman took a deep glance at Yi Xian and didn't say anything. Why was time reversal so invincible? Because no one could flow with time outside the daylight world. So, even if one could reverse time for a breath of time, it was still a heaven-defying and invincible existence. She hadn't expected that this young man could actually flow with time outside the daylight world. That was equivalent to him being the daylight world. Needless to say, the woman was extremely shocked at this moment. Because for countless years, many people had wanted to control the flow of time within the daylight world. If they could bring it out, then they would absolutely be invincible existences. However, no one had been able to accomplish it. Because no divine object could withstand the flow of time. If other divine objects could withstand the flow of time, then their vitality would flow away as well. Even some powerful spirits would turn into dust upon coming into contact with the flow of time. Moreover, the owner of the divine object wouldn't be able to withstand the flow of time and would perish. However, the sword in front of him could. Yi Xian was extremely excited at this moment. He noticed that he didn't have to fear the flow of time at all. Not only was he unafraid of it, but it was the opposite. Conversely, experts who'd learned the power of time reversal should fear him instead. He was flowing with time. Actually, going against the flow of time was much more difficult than going with it. However, it depended on the situation. It was like water and fire. Under normal circumstances, fire was afraid of water. But what if the fire was 100 times larger than water? Under such circumstances, could water still extinguish the fire? Simply speaking, if someone's time reversal exceeded the time he took to go with it, then he would lose to that person. However, there were absolutely very few people who could do that right now. The reason he'd been bashed up by Miss Zhao at the beginning was because he hadn't executed life-severing. Because he hadn't intended to kill her and he'd merely intended to spar. Of course, he hadn't underestimated Miss Zhao. Because she'd been able to shatter his green profound sword. That meant that even if she didn't use time reversal, her strength was still extremely terrifying. Besides that, Miss Zhao had been completely unharmed when he'd swung his sword just now. Meanwhile, the woman suddenly said, "Can I have a look at that sword of yours?" Xian gazed at her and smiled, "Of course." As he spoke, he opened his palm and the green profound sword flew over to her. She gazed at Xian. "You're willing to give it to me?" Xian smiled, "I trust you, miss." She stared at Xian. "Why do you trust me?" Xian said with a smile, "How would a peerless powerhouse like you do such a shameless thing?" The woman glanced at Xian, and then she sized up the green profound sword in her hand. A short while later she gazed at Xian, and she didn't say a word before she transformed into a ray of red light and vanished on the spot. Xian was stunned. "She's escaped." Xian hurriedly swept the surroundings with his divine sense, but he couldn't find her at all. She'd vanished without a trace. Xian's face was extremely dark as he stood on the spot. Damn it. She doesn't play by the rules. Chapter 2084. He ran away. Xian really hadn't expected that the woman would actually run away with the green profound sword. Doesn't she want any face at all? Meanwhile, Xiaota spoke in a low voice. "Young master, this woman chose to be shameless just like you. What should we do?" "What should I do?" Xian was speechless. "What else can I do? In this damnable place I'm simply like a little brother without the green profound sword." Truthfully speaking, he was slightly panicking now, because he couldn't sense the green profound sword anymore. However, he knew that the woman would definitely come back to look for him. Without his authorization, it was utterly impossible for the woman to use the green profound sword. But the problem was, what should he do during this period of time before the woman came back to look for him? If he encountered those four fellows that were neither human nor ghost, then he would probably be dead on the spot. Right at this moment, a horrifying and strange voice suddenly resounded from afar. Xian's scalp went numb when he heard this voice and he turned around and ran. He knew that those four bastards had come. Xian ran madly all the way and it wasn't long before he arrived at a desolate mountain. The mountain was extremely gloomy, and the surroundings were filled with bone-piercing coldness. Xiaota suddenly said, "Young master, this place doesn't seem to be a place for ordinary people to stay." Xian glanced at the surroundings. Right at this moment, a group of people suddenly appeared in the distance. This group of people seemed like a wedding procession, and all of them wore blood-red robes and carried a blood-red palanquin. Xian had a slight headache when he saw this scene. Damn it. Do they have to make it so strange? Meanwhile, those four rotten people in white robes appeared not too far behind Xian. Xian looked at the white and red figures before him and he felt extremely pained. Meanwhile, a voice suddenly resounded from within the palanquin. The aura of a living person. It was a woman's voice. Along with this voice, a woman walked out. The woman wore a large red robe and a phoenix coronet, and she looked like a bride that was about to get married. Xian glanced at the woman, his expression calm, and asked in his heart, "Xiaota, what do you think will happen if Qinger comes here and meets this group of gaudy hares?" After a moment of silence, Xiaota said, "A grand burial." Xiaota. At this moment, the woman in the red dress slowly walked in front of Xian. Xian did not run because he could not escape at all. The woman in the red dress moved closer to Xian. She blinked and asked, "Did you come in from outside?" Xian nodded. The red-dressed woman chuckled. "I heard that you are Hongzhao's man?" Xian frowned. "Hongzhao," the woman said with smile. "The woman you met before." "Hongzhao." Xian thought for a moment and said, "She's just using me as a shield." The woman looked at Xian and said with a smile, "Then you are doomed. Death Lord will not let you off." Xian's expression was calm. "He should know that she's just using me as a shield." The woman blinked. "So what if he knows? To him you are just an ant. Hongzhao used you to make him unhappy. He can't do anything to Hongzhao, but he can do anything to you." Xian sighed softly. "Don't they say that experts of your level can foresee life and death danger? I am standing in front of you, can't you feel the danger?" The woman looked at Xian and did not speak. Xian said again, "Don't they say that we can foresee fortune and disaster? Don't tell me that you have lost this ability." The woman smiled slightly. "Do you know why you are still alive?" Xian frowned. The woman moved closer to Xian. She blinked and said, "Do you think Hongzhao is a kind woman? Do you think she didn't kill you because you are handsome?" Yi Xian hesitated for a moment and said, that? Isn't it? The woman was stunned and then she shook her head and smiled. You are really shameless. Yi Xian was speechless. The woman smiled. She didn't kill you because she sensed danger. Otherwise you would have been sucked dry by her a long time ago. Yi Xian glanced at the rotting man in white robes behind him. The four of them were obviously afraid of the woman, so they did not dare to attack. Yi Xian withdrew his gaze and looked at the woman in front of him. Miss, how should I address you? The woman blinked. Jia Yi. Yi Xian thought for a moment and said, Miss Jia Yi, it is not a coincidence that you are here, right? Jia Yi nodded. Yi Xian asked, are we enemies? Jia Yi looked at Yi Xian and smiled. I am not sure. Yi Xian asked again, do you have a grudge against Hong Zhao? Jia Yi didn't follow Yi Xian's rhythm. He smiled. What do you want to say? Yi Xian thought for a moment and said, can we talk somewhere else? Jia Yi glanced at the four white-robed ghosts behind Yi Xian and smiled. You want me to help you deal with them? Yi Xian suddenly said, excuse me. With that he led Jia Yi into Xiaota. Jia Yi's eyes narrowed when he entered Xiaota. Yi Xian suddenly opened his palm and the blood in his body suddenly boiled. Jia Yi looked at Yi Xian but Yi Xian still didn't speak. After a long time Jia Yi suddenly smiled. The Xiao, and your blood. Well, actually it is not important. The main thing is that I want to be friends with you. Yi Xian, Jia Yi smiled. Young master, let's go. I have been annoyed by those four for a long time. I can fix them today. With that he led Yi Xian away from Xiaota. Jia Yi glanced at the four in the distance and he waved his sleeve. Bang. The four were instantly blasted 30 kilometers away by a powerful force. Meanwhile Jia Yi suddenly said, this young master is my guest. Get lost and don't disturb him. In the distance the leader of the group spoke in a low voice. Master Jia, he is the one that Death Lord wants to kill. Jia Yi spoke indifferently. What? Are you going to use your Death Lord to pressure me? The man bowed slightly. I dare not. Jia Yi's eyes narrowed. Get lost. The man didn't dare to say anything. He just glanced at Yi Xian and said hoarsely, no one can protect you forever. With that he was about to leave. Meanwhile Yi Xian suddenly said, wait. The man turned around to gaze at Yi Xian. Yi Xian suddenly gazed at Jia Yi, walked over to Jia Yi's side and spoke softly, can that bastard reverse time? Jia Yi glanced at the man and shook his head. It can't. Yi Xian was stunned and then he gazed at the man. A moment later Yi Xian vanished on the spot. Boom. A sword howl resounded abruptly. It wasn't life-severing, it was an instant of life and death. In the distance the leader of the group suddenly took a step forward and then he smashed his fist forward. As he punched out, countless wisps of black gas swept out from his fist. Meanwhile Yi Xian's sword arrived before him. Bang! Along with a burst of sword light, a sword directly pierced through the decaying man's fist, and then it pierced through his arm and into his chest. Bang! The decaying man was instantly nailed to the spacetime tens of thousands of feet away by the sword. At this moment the man was stunned. Yi Xian opened his palm and waved it, and then a few dozen strands of sword energy shot forward. Hiss. The other three white-robed ghosts weren't even able to react before they were slashed into pieces. Yi Xian walked over to the white-robed ghost who was nailed to the ground. Do you think I'm very weak? The white-robed ghost gulped and said, If you aren't weak then why are you running? Yi Xian fell silent. Damn it. Didn't I think you knew how to reverse time? So it turns out that you don't. Based on his current strength, besides experts who could reverse time, no other experts were a match for him. Actually, even if it was a powerhouse like Hong Zhao, if he didn't use this method of reversing time he would still have the power to fight. Yi Xian didn't waste his breath. He just flicked his sleeve and a ray of light instantly killed the white-robed ghost. Jia Yi smiled. He's the Death Lord's subordinate. Killing him is equivalent to slapping the Death Lord's face. Now there's enmity between the two of you. Yi Xian spoke in a low voice. Miss Jia Yi, can you tell me about this place? Jia Yi was quite surprised. You don't know about this place? Yi Xian nodded. It's my first time. Cassiopeia took a look at Yi Xian. After a while she said, the dead world is a cursed place. Yi Xian frowned. It's cursed. Jia Yi nodded and spoke softly. A very long time ago it was actually a normal world. But something happened here and it caused an extremely vicious curse to be placed here. Everyone in this world will become the living dead, and they'll never be able to leave this world. As for the people here, because they have inhaled too much of the death qi, they only have the death qi in their bodies and no life qi. Yi Xian frowned slightly. Only death energy. Jia Yi nodded. Yi Xian spoke in a low voice. If there's only death energy in your body, then what form do you live in? Jia Yi smiled. The living dead. Those who are slightly stronger can barely suppress the death aura and prevent it from completely corroding us. Those who are not strong will be like those ghosts you killed just now. Their bodies and souls will be corroded by the death aura, and they will eventually become monsters. Yi Xian nodded. I see. By the way, who cursed this place? Jia Yi fell silent. Yi Xian asked. Can't say. Jia Yi shook her head. I don't dare to say. Yi Xian frowned. He's still here. Jia Yi nodded. Yi Xian looked around. Damn, looks like I need to keep a low profile. As if thinking of something, Yi Xian looked at Jia Yi. Miss Jia Yi, your attire. Jia Yi smiled. I'm waiting for my fiancé. Yi Xian frowned. Fiancé? Is he out? Jia Yi shook her head. He's dead. Yi Xian's expression froze. Waiting for a dead person? Jia Yi said softly. He couldn't resist the death energy in his body, so... She shook her head. Let's not talk about the past. I'll take you to see someone. Yi Xian was curious. Who? Jia Yi said. Someone who said you can save this world. Yi Xian. Chapter 2085. Save this world? Yi Xian frowned. He was just about to ask something when Jia Yi brought him to a valley. In this valley there was a simple bamboo house. In front of the bamboo house was a sea of flowers, and in the middle of the flowers stood a woman. She wore a cloud-colored dress and held a flower basket in her hand. Meanwhile, she turned to look at Yi Xian and smiled. Young Master Yi. Young Master Yi. Yi Xian frowned slightly. You know me? The corners of the woman's mouth curled up slightly. Of course. As she spoke, she placed the flower basket to the side and walked over to a stone table. Let's sit down and talk. Yi Xian hesitated for a moment, and then he sat down in front of the woman. The woman smiled. Young Master Yi, I'm Huang, the Huang from the Grand Wilderness. Yi Xian looked at her. Miss Huang, you know me? Huang nodded. Yi Xian frowned slightly. Meanwhile, Huang smiled. I know Miss Nian. Big Sister Nian. Yi Xian was struck dumb right away. Miss Huang smiled. I've met her before and I've asked her for help. However, she said that in order to break the curse, there are only 3 people in this world that she knows of who can do it. And these 3 people are absolutely not people the world of death can come into contact with, nor are they people we can invite. At this point she looked at Yi Xian, but she also said that one person can invite them. Yi Xian fell silent. Obviously that person was him. Huang suddenly stood up and bowed slightly to Yi Xian. Young Master Yi, please lend a hand and save the living beings of this world. Yi Xian looked at Huang. Big Sister Nian told you to look for me? Huang nodded. Yi Xian smiled bitterly. Since Sister Nian had spoken like this, it was obvious that she hoped that he could break the curse of this place. Contact Qinger? Yi Xian suddenly looked at Miss Huang. Miss Huang, since Sister Nian has spoken, I have no reason to refuse. However, I don't know how you treat me. If she knew, she wouldn't have let you come to me. Hearing this, Miss Huang frowned. Did something happen? Yi Xian said calmly. As soon as I came here, your people destroyed my body. Not only that, she even stole my sword. Apart from that, that Death Lord sent people to kill me time and time again. At this point he shook his head. The more I think about it, the angrier I get. Miss Huang looked at Jia Yi, who nodded slightly. Miss Huang's expression immediately turned cold. Meanwhile, Yi Xian suddenly said, Miss Huang, I really don't want to trouble my sister because of this world. How about this? I'll take you out, or I'll think of a way to remove your curse. As for this world, I'm truly powerless. Miss Huang hesitated for a moment and said, Young Master Yi, I understand your grievances. How about this? Wait a moment, I'll deal with it for you. Yi Xian blinked. Miss Huang, are you the strongest here? Miss Huang shook her head. Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. Then you might not be able to deal with it. As I said before, I'll think of a way to remove your curse. As for this world, I'm powerless. Miss Huang hesitated for a moment and said, But Miss Nian. Yi Xian smiled. Big Sister Nian definitely doesn't know that you people here bully me. Otherwise, she wouldn't have asked you to come find me. I firmly believe this. In this world, the one who treated him the best was definitely Qing'e, and the second was big sister Nian. As for his father, he directly overlooked him. Miss Huang suddenly looked at Jia Yi. Where's Hongzhao? Jia Yi shook his head. I don't know where she went. Miss Huang spoke in a low voice. Tell her to come find me. Jia Yi hesitated for a moment before he nodded. All right. As soon as she finished speaking, she closed her eyes slowly, and the space before her started to tremble. It didn't take long for the space before them to shatter, and then a woman walked out from within. It was Hongzhao. Hongzhao was slightly stunned when she saw Yi Xian. You're not dead? Yi Xian's face darkened. Meanwhile, Miss Huang suddenly waved her right hand. Slap. A clear and resounding slap resounded. Hongzhao's body was blasted apart before she could even react. Only her soul remained. Yi Xian's eyelids twitched when he witnessed this scene. Damn it. That woman is that strong? He knew how strong Hongzhao was. She wasn't just able to reverse time, she could even shatter the green profound sword. But such a terrifying woman had actually been blasted apart by a single slap? Shouldn't I be more humble when I speak? Hongzhao was stunned as well. She gazed at Miss Huang with a bewildered expression. Huang. Miss Huang's expression was icy cold. Apologize to young Master Yi. Apologize. Hongzhao gazed at Yi Xian. Why? Miss Huang's eyes narrowed slightly. I'll give you one last chance. Hongzhao's expression instantly changed drastically. She hurriedly gazed at Yi Xian. Young Master Yi, I'm sorry. Yi Xian said, Where's my sword? Hongzhao hesitated for a moment before she said, It's in the Death Lord's hands. Yi Xian frowned slightly. The Death Lord's hands? Hongzhao nodded. Yi Xian spoke in a low voice. How could it be in the Death Lord's hands? Hongzhao glanced at Miss Huang and fell silent. Yi Xian suddenly said, Did you notice that you couldn't use it, so you gave it to the Death Lord so that I would form irreconcilable enmity with him? Hongzhao gazed at Yi Xian and didn't speak. Yi Xian sighed softly. Miss Hongzhao, look at what you've done. I trusted you so much, yet you just took my sword and ran. Most importantly, you didn't just use me as a shield, you even tried to drive a wedge between me and the Death Lord. You actually dared to do such a shameless thing. Hongzhao's expression was calm and she didn't speak. Meanwhile, Miss Huang spoke abruptly. Young Master Yi, if you still don't feel satisfied, then you can kill her. Hongzhao's expression instantly changed drastically. Miss Huang. Miss Huang ignored her. Hongzhao suddenly turned to look at Yi Xian. I underestimated your backer. Yi Xian shook his head. He looked at Miss Huang. Miss Huang, can you deal with the Death Lord? Miss Huang looked at Jia Yi. Ask him to come see me. Yi Xian was speechless. Jia Yi nodded slightly and then he spoke via voice transmission. It didn't take long for the space not too far away from them to tremble, and then a middle-aged man walked out from within it. The middle-aged man wore a black robe, had an aged appearance, gray eyes and a dense aura of death. The Death Lord. The Death Lord glanced at Yi Xian and then he gazed at Miss Huang. Miss Huang, do you need something from me? Miss Huang looked the Death Lord in the eyes. Where's young Master Ye's sword? The Death Lord's eyes narrowed slightly. What? Does Miss Huang intend to stand up for this outsider? A wisp of a ferocious expression flashed through Miss Huang's eyes. She opened her palm, and then a petal suddenly flew up from the garden. In the next moment, everything here became illusory. Hongzhao and Jia Ye's expressions changed drastically when they saw the petal. The Death Lord's pupils constricted. He raised his right hand slightly and pressed it down lightly. In an instant the space around him started to slow down. It was time reversal. However, as soon as the petal arrived here, something seemed to have been torn apart, and then everyone watched as the petal shot into the center of the Death Lord's forehead. Bang! The Death Lord's figure shook violently, and then countless strands of death energy were obliterated. At this moment the expressions of Hongzhao, Jia Yi, and Yi Xian had become extremely solemn. Miss Huang's petal had actually destroyed the Death Lord's time reversal technique. The Death Lord stared fixedly at Miss Huang. You. Miss Huang suddenly opened her palm, and then a sword flew out from within the Death Lord's body and fell firmly into her grasp. Miss Huang sized up the sword and then she returned it to Yi Xian. Young Master Yi. Yi Xian took the sword and said, Didn't you say that you weren't the strongest here? Miss Huang blinked. I think that I should be humble. Xian was speechless. Miss Huang glanced at Hong Zhao and the Death Lord. Young Master Yi, do you want them to die? Hong Zhao and the Death Lord's expressions changed when they heard this. Xian smiled. That's up to you. Miss Huang nodded slightly. I understand. As she spoke, she was about to attack. Meanwhile, Hong Zhao suddenly said, Miss Huang, you haven't fought for almost 1,000,000 years, so why are you helping that human? Miss Huang spoke indifferently, because he can save this world. Hong Zhao was stunned and then she spoke furiously. Him? How could that be possible? It's absolutely impossible. Miss Huang shook her head. It's impossible for him, but the person behind him can. Hong Zhao spoke ferociously. No one in this world can resist that fellow. No one. Miss Huang shook her head slightly and she was about to attack. Meanwhile, Xian suddenly said, just kill that man. Miss Huang glanced at Xian and then she nodded and was about to attack. However, the Death Lord suddenly said, I don't believe it as well. Miss Huang gazed at Xian and then she nodded and was about to attack. The Death Lord suddenly said, I don't believe it as well. Miss Huang gazed at Xian and waited for Xian's instructions. Xian frowned slightly. I don't care if you believe it or not. But I didn't believe you, so you killed me? Xian said calmly, because she is a woman and a beautiful woman. Xian spoke indifferently, because she's a woman and a beautiful woman at that. The Death Lord was first stunned and then she was furious. You old pervert. Bang. The Death Lord's body trembled violently, and then she was instantly absorbed by the green profound sword. The other 3 women were speechless. Xian opened his palm and the green profound sword flew back into his grasp. He gazed at Miss Huang who stood before him. Miss Huang, your strength is so terrifying, yet you're still unable to deal with the curse here? Miss Huang nodded. I can't. Xian spoke in a low voice. Who exactly placed the curse here? Miss Huang fell silent for a moment before she said, A woman. A woman. Xian felt a headache coming on. Why are all women so terrifying? Miss Huang hesitated for a moment and then she said, Young Master Yi, I really trust Miss Nian. However, I have to remind you that the person who placed the curse here is so strong that even I feel that he's unfathomable. Many monstrous geniuses have appeared in the world of death throughout the years, but so long as anyone dares to break the curse, then they die without a doubt. Will the person behind you be able to do it? Xian was just about to speak when Miss Huang's expression suddenly changed drastically. She suddenly pulled Xian behind her and then she pointed a finger forward. Bang! The space in front of Miss Huang trembled violently, and then her finger was actually being obliterated at a terrifying speed. Moreover, it was spreading towards her body and in an instant her entire right arm had vanished. Miss Huang didn't care about her hand and she suddenly turned around. Meanwhile, a pure white hand had suddenly grabbed onto Xian's throat. Only a hand. Xiaota suddenly said, Don't hurt my young master. The hand suddenly let go of Xian and in the next moment, it grabbed onto Xiaota and tightened its grip. Bang! Xiaota trembled violently and his body directly cracked into a spider web. Xiaota wailed, I take back what I said just now. You can hurt me all you want. Don't hit me. I'm just a tower. Xian was speechless. P.S. Don't ask me why there are 3 chapters. If you ask, then you're being willful. Having a draft is being willful. Chapter 2086. A hand. Everyone here had extremely solemn expressions on their faces. There was only a single hand, but it was exactly that hand that caused everyone here to feel despair. That included Xian, who held the green profound sword. Xian remained silent. He was on the verge of collapse. Can I really stay cool for 3 days? I just thought I was invincible, yet I've become the little brother now. Damn it. What a fucking life. Desolation slowly clenched her left hand, and then a powerful strand of energy condensed within it. She stared fixedly at that hand. You've cursed this city for over 10 million years. Is that still not enough? Enough? Meanwhile, a resentful voice resounded from somewhere. Even if I have a lifetime, it wouldn't be enough. Desolation spoke furiously. How long do you intend to trap this world for? The voice replied, Forever. As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly waved her hand. Bang! Desolation was blasted over 10 kilometers away, and the space where she resided instantly shattered as soon as she stopped. She couldn't fight back at all. Jia Yi and Hong Zhao's eyes were filled with terror. That woman. That woman who'd cursed this place for 10 million years. Desolation wiped off the blood on the corner of her mouth, and then she gazed at Yi Xian. Flee. Flee. Yi Xian laughed bitterly. How do I flee? Even you're being bashed, so where would I flee to? Meanwhile, that hand suddenly pointed a finger at Desolation. Desolation's pupils constricted. Meanwhile, Yi Xian suddenly appeared in front of her, and then he opened his palm and a strand of sword energy appeared in his grasp. It was his father's sword energy. With the appearance of this sword energy, the hand suddenly stopped moving. The surroundings suddenly fell silent. Yi Xian gazed at the hand with a calm expression on his face. Want to have a talk? The voice ridiculed. You aren't worthy. As the voice fell, the jade-like hand suddenly floated up slowly. The next moment, an extremely terrifying power suddenly condensed in her right hand. With the appearance of this power, the entire world of the dead began to boil, and then it began to burn bit by bit. Yi Xian's eyes instantly narrowed when he witnessed this scene. Damn it. This was the first time he had seen someone choose to face his father's sword chi head-on. It was impossible for the other party not to know how terrifying father's sword chi was. However, the other party still chose to face it head-on. What did this mean? This meant that the opponent had the confidence to resist his father's sword chi. Of course, Yi Xian, who had his father's sword energy in his hand, didn't back down. He was about to activate his sword energy and kill this woman. He didn't believe that this woman could withstand his father's sword chi. Although his father was a vicious tiger that ate his own children, his strength was undeniable. If a wisp of sword chi couldn't kill this woman, it would be too degrading. Just as Yi Xian was about to completely activate the sword chi, Desolation suddenly pulled Yi Xian's arm. She looked at Yi Xian and shook her head. If this wisp of sword chi is released together with her power, it will destroy the entire world of the dead in an instant. Yi Xian was silent. As Huang said, once this strand of sword energy was released, together with that woman's power, forget about the entire death realm, even he himself might not necessarily be able to survive. However, he had no choice but to fight. Suddenly, Huang looked at the hand. He's Miss Nian Yan's younger brother. Yan Yan. The hand suddenly trembled slightly and a moment later the voice resounded. So what? Huang spoke solemnly. Can't we talk? The voice suddenly became ferocious. Talk? Did they give me a chance to talk all those years ago? Huang frowned slightly. You've already annihilated their entire clan. The voice roared. Is that enough? Huang fell silent. Crack. Meanwhile, the space in front of Huang was suddenly torn apart. In the next moment, a woman in white walked out slowly. Needless to say, the woman was truly too beautiful. Huang Jiayi and Hong Zhao were all peerless beauties, but they instantly paled in comparison to this woman. However, the woman's eyes were extremely cold and devoid of any emotion. The woman walked slowly towards Huang. Descendant of the Desolate clan, the reason I didn't kill you was because your Desolate clan was the only one that didn't attack my clan all those years ago. However, that doesn't mean you have the right to talk to me. As she spoke, she turned to glare coldly at Yi Xian. And you, who do you think you are? What right do you have to meddle in other people's business? Just because you have someone backing you? The person backing you is strong, but that's the matter of the person backing you. What has it got to do with you? You don't have the strength, yet you still want to meddle in other people's business. In the end, the person backing you has to clean up after you. Don't you feel ashamed? Yi Xian shook his head. Don't use words to ruin my state of mind. I'm very thick-skinned and any verbal insults have no effect on me. The woman stared coldly at Yi Xian. What, are you proud of being a second generation? Yi Xian shook his head again. I'm not proud, but I'm a second generation. Is that wrong of me? Isn't it my father and sister who are wrong? Who told them to be so strong? They're strong, but I'm the second generation. Besides, is it up to me to decide whether they're strong or not? The woman stared fixedly at Yi Xian, not saying a word. She suddenly found that she was a little speechless. Yi Xian continued. Also, I'm a second generation, but I don't take advantage of my power to bully others. At most, I'm just showing off. Is it against the law to show off? Is it wrong to show off? Besides, when I failed to show off and got beaten up, did I call for help? I don't think I called for help. You bullied me until now, did I call for help? Did I? The woman looked coldly at Yi Xian, not saying a word. Yi Xian continued. I've never thought that being a second generation is that great. On the contrary, you don't know how much pressure I'm under because my goal in this life is to surpass my father and sister, but my father and sister are so invincible. At this point he shook his head. This kind of pain you can't understand. The woman looked coldly at Zhou Xian. Human, I don't want to see you show off here. I'll give you two choices: one, you leave this place; two, you call for help. Zhou Xian immediately said, I choose to call for help. The woman narrowed her eyes. Didn't you say that you don't rely on your family? Zhou Xian smiled. Since Sister Nian asked her to find me, then I'll definitely do my best. As he said that, he opened his palm and the green profound sword appeared in it. He slowly closed his eyes, whispering in his heart, I know you can hear me. Can you come out and beat this woman up? There was no response. Zhou Xian frowned. How is this possible? Zhou Xian asked again. Are you there? Still no response. Zhou Xian's face darkened. He continued. Qing Still no response. Zhou Xian's expression froze. This Qing couldn't have fallen asleep, could she? He tried to call out a few more times, but there was still no response. This time cold sweat dripped down Zhou Xian's forehead. At the side, the women were looking at Zhou Xian. In front of Zhou Xian, the woman said, What's wrong? Is there a problem? Zhou Xian looked at the woman, then slowly closed his eyes. Dad? No response. Zhou Xian hesitated for a moment. Then he said, Dad, I have never asked you for help. Please help me this time. Still no response. Zhou Xian's face darkened. Dad? Still no response. Zhou Xian's face darkened. Xiaota suddenly said, Young master. I'm a little nervous now. Zhou Xian said in a deep voice, Can you contact Dad? Xiaota said, No. Master is too far away from me. Why don't we use the same trick again and ask this woman to use the green profound sword to sense Big Sister Tianming? Zhou Xian thought about it for a long time and then he nodded. All right. As he spoke, he passed the green profound sword to the woman. You'll be able to sense my younger sister through this sword. The woman took the sword, but she didn't sense it. Instead, she gazed at Zhou Xian and said, Why should I sense your younger sister? Zhou Xian was stunned and then he said, You're so invincible. Don't you want to meet someone stronger? The woman frowned slightly. What logic is that? I have to find someone stronger to fight because I'm strong? Zhou Xian spoke in a low voice. Do you think my younger sister is stronger than you as well? The woman shook her head. Don't try to provoke me like that. I'm not interested in your younger sister, and I'm even less interested in you. Since you can't get someone to come, then I'll have to beat you up. Zhou Xian's expression immediately changed. At this moment the woman flicked her sleeves. Bang! Zhou Xian was blasted flying and he flew over 30 kilometers away. When his figure finally stopped, his body had split apart while blood sprayed out. The woman glanced coldly at Zhou Xian and she intended to attack again. However, Zhou Xian opened his palm, and the green-clothed man's sword energy appeared in his grasp. The woman gazed at Zhou Xian while her eyes narrowed slightly. Didn't you say that you don't rely on your father and younger sister? Zhou Xian spoke angrily. You're about to beat me to death, yet you don't allow me to rely on my father? The woman's face remained emotionless. You're about to be beaten to death by me. Why haven't I seen your father? What? Are you not his biological son? Zhou Xian's face froze. Xiaota suddenly said, That hurts. Zhou Xian was speechless. Meanwhile, Desolation spoke abruptly. Young Master Yi, you should leave. Zhou Xian looked at Desolation and Desolation spoke softly. Didn't she give you two choices? Choose the first one. Zhou Xian said in a low voice. What about you? The woman suddenly said, You can't even protect yourself and you still care about her? Zhou Xian said in a low voice. I don't care about others, but I have to care about Sister Nian's friend. As he spoke, he appeared in front of Desolation. He looked at the woman in front of him and said fiercely, I can't beat you, but... The woman looked coldly at Zhou Xian. But what? Zhou Xian said in a low voice. But... At this point he stopped talking. The woman mocked. But what? Tell me. Tell me. Zhou Xian said angrily. But my father can beat you. My younger sister can beat you. Everyone, the woman mocked. You don't have your father and you don't have your sister. What are you? Zhou Xian said angrily. I still have an elder brother. The woman's expression froze. The women almost collapsed. Chapter 2087. Hearing Zhou Xian's words, the woman's face turned cold. In fact, The reason she listened to Yi Xian's nonsense was because she sensed that the person who made the Xian profound sword was extraordinary. Moreover, the sword energy in Yi Xian's hand was so terrifying. The owner of the sword energy must be stronger than her. If she really killed Yi Xian, she would be stained with karma. Although she was strong, she didn't think she was invincible. She had to admit that encountering this kind of second generation was a headache. She couldn't fight. Curse. She couldn't win an argument. Compromise? She was unwilling. Why should she compromise with a second generation? The woman looked at Yi Xian. You said you haven't called the person behind you for a long time, right? Yi Xian nodded. The woman stared at Yi Xian. So, you want to rely on yourself? Yi Xian glanced at the woman. Under normal circumstances, I won't call for help. But if you want to kill me, I'll call for help. Because you're much stronger than me. The woman nodded. How about this? I'll give you a chance. You and I will seal our cultivation and have a fair fight. Yi Xian frowned. A fair fight. The woman nodded. Let's compete on foundation and battle awareness. Yi Xian was silent. The woman looked at Yi Xian and was about to mock when Yi Xian suddenly said, I agree. The woman stared at Yi Xian. The bet is that if you lose, you'll get lost. If I lose, I'll let you and Huang go. Yi Xian was silent for a moment. Deal. If Qing'er and his father didn't show up, he couldn't save the entire realm of the dead. Although he wanted to act tough, he had to act tough within his limits. If he didn't have enough strength, he'd be an idiot. At this moment, Huang walked to Yi Xian's side. She looked at Yi Xian and asked, Are you confident? Yi Xian smiled and said, No. Desolation's expression froze. Yi Xian smiled and said, I will do my best. As he spoke, he looked at the woman in the distance. Miss, how should I address you? The woman was expressionless. What does my name have to do with you? Yi Xian was speechless. The woman said, Cut the crap, let's begin. Yi Xian nodded slightly. He opened his palm and a sword appeared in his hand. Seal all cultivation. The two of them would compete in their foundations and battle awareness. Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. Calm state. The moment his heart calmed down, the sword in his hand trembled slightly. In the distance, the woman had a calm expression. At this time, Yi Xian suddenly disappeared on the spot. The woman suddenly raised two fingers and gently clamped them. This clamp directly caught Yi Xian's sword. Then she took advantage of the situation and flicked it. Boom. Yi Xian's sword shattered. At this moment, a sword appeared between the woman's brows without any warning. A flying sword. This was Yi Xian's true killing move. Facing this sudden flying sword, the woman's expression was very calm. She took a step back and swept her fingers. Boom. The flying sword was directly swept away. But in the next moment, another flying sword slashed down. There was no sword chi or sword intent, nor was there any power of space-time. It was just pure speed and strength. The woman stood on the spot with a calm expression. When the flying sword slashed in front of her, she suddenly moved to the side and dodged it. In the next moment, she took advantage of the situation to charge forward and strike with her elbow. Yi Xian blocked it with his sword. Bang! Yi Xian was directly forced back by this elbow strike. Before Yi Xian could stop, the woman appeared in front of him once more. At the same time, her right hand had clamped down on his throat. In the next moment, she exerted force with her right hand. However, at this moment, her expression changed abruptly because Yi Xian had taken the initiative to shatter his body. He'd taken the initiative to destroy his body. At the moment his body shattered, Yi Xian's sword stabbed between the woman's brows. However, it had only entered half an inch when it stopped because the woman's hand had clamped his sword again. Yi Xian suddenly released his right hand and floated backwards. At the same time, a flying sword flew towards the woman again. The woman's expression was calm as she lightly swept Yi Xian's sword between her fingers. Boom. Both swords were obliterated. The woman looked at Yi Xian in the distance. You took the initiative to abandon your body. How decisive of you. In the distance, Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. Focus. On the side, the woman frowned slightly. Focus. Yi Xian suddenly disappeared on the spot. The woman turned her body slightly and a sword stabbed between her brows. At this moment, the sword suddenly stopped and slapped horizontally. The woman blocked it with her fingers. Smack. A crisp sound rang out. The woman retreated several feet. Just as she stopped, another sword stabbed her. It was seamless. The woman frowned slightly. She clamped her fingers together and clamped Yi Xian's sword again before exerting force. Boom. The sword shattered. However, the next moment another sword stabbed her. The woman punched out. Boom. That sword shattered. However, at this moment Yi Xian was already more than 10 feet away. He stood there with his sword in hand and his eyes were still closed. The woman looked at Yi Xian calmly, but there was a trace of surprise in the depths of her eyes. She realized that she seemed to have underestimated this swordsman. At this moment Yi Xian suddenly took a step forward. With this step, a sword directly appeared between the woman's brows. The woman pointed with her fingers. This time she chose to take it head-on. Boom. Yi Xian's sword was stopped on the spot by this finger. However, at this moment Yi Xian suddenly let go of the sword. The sword circled around the woman's fingers at a strange angle and slashed diagonally at her neck. The woman's expression was calm as she flicked her left fingers to the left. Bang! The sword was directly repelled. However, at this moment another sword stabbed her. This sword was not fast, but it came at the perfect time. Perfect connection. The woman suddenly opened her right hand and pressed down lightly. However, the next moment her pupils constricted because she noticed that Yi Xian had transformed into a sword ray and entered the sword. His soul and sword had completely fused. Could it be done like this? The woman wanted to stop, but it was too late. The sword pierced through her palm and entered her right hand. The most terrifying thing was that Yi Xian's soul had entered her body as well. One body with two souls. The woman was stunned. Yi Xian was also stunned at this moment. Actually, fusing his soul with the sword was a sudden thought he'd had because he could fuse with the sword. However, he hadn't expected that his strength would actually multiply after his soul fused with the sword. Moreover, he hadn't expected that his soul would enter the woman's body by relying on the sword. But what's going on? Right at this moment, a terrifying force suddenly smashed down towards his soul. Yi Xian's expression changed drastically. But this woman doesn't care about martial virtue. She's actually recovered her cultivation. Moreover, she intends to destroy my soul. At this critical moment, Yi Xian couldn't be bothered about anything else. He directly utilized the green profound sword to suppress the woman's soul. Moreover, he even activated his bloodline energy to suppress her bloodline. Bang! In an instant, the woman's body trembled violently. Her expression instantly changed and she hurriedly stopped. Her expression was extremely unsightly. Show yourself. Yi Xian spoke in a low voice. Woman, you didn't keep your word. You actually recovered your cultivation. The woman spoke fiercely. Are you coming out or not? She didn't dare to forcefully attack because Yi Xian's sword was extremely powerful against her soul. Moreover, Yi Xian's bloodline energy was suppressing her own bloodline as well. If Yi Xian was a bit stronger, he might even be able to seize her body. Of course, Yi Xian's current strength was far from being able to accomplish that. However, Yi Xian could cause destruction. Yi Xian spoke in a low voice. I'm not coming out. Going out would only result in a beating. The woman suddenly looked at Huang. If you don't come out, then I'll kill her. Yi Xian opened his palm and the green-clothed man's sword energy appeared. He spoke indifferently. If you dare to attack, then I'll activate this strand of sword energy. You might be able to survive in the outside world, but you definitely won't be able to survive in here. The woman's expression was ferocious. Are you threatening me? Yi Xian said angrily. I am threatening you. You don't care about martial virtue. We agreed to have a fair battle, yet you recovered your strength. You're even more shameless than me. The woman spoke in a low voice. Come out and let's continue. Yi Xian flared up with rage. As if I'd believe you. The woman's eyes narrowed slightly. Then do you intend to live here forever? Yi Xian glanced at the surroundings and said, I think it's pretty good. The woman's expression returned to calm. Do you think I can't do anything to you? She slowly closed her eyes as she spoke. Yi Xian's expression instantly changed greatly. Damn it. This woman's sea of consciousness wants to enter my sea of consciousness. She wants to seize my body instead. The woman acted immediately, and her sea of consciousness directly invaded Yi Xian's sea of consciousness. However, Yi Xian hurriedly said, Little soul, suppress my sea of consciousness. The green profound sword immediately fused into one with Yi Xian to resist the woman. However, the woman still entered Yi Xian's sea of consciousness, and she intended to directly suppress Yi Xian's consciousness. However, Yi Xian naturally wouldn't resign himself to death and he started to resist. Needless to say, this woman was extraordinarily terrifying. Even with the assistance of the green profound sword, Yi Xian was only barely able to resist the invasion of her consciousness. As for that strand of sword qi, he didn't dare to use it rashly, because using it here would cause both good and bad to perish together. So he wouldn't use that strand of sword qi unless he had no other choice. Meanwhile, the woman spoke fiercely, "I'll make you restrain yourself." As soon as she finished speaking, she started to invade Yi Xian's sea of consciousness like a madman. Yi Xian's expression changed greatly and he hurriedly resisted. However, he gradually lost his footing under the invasion of the woman's consciousness. Right at this moment, Xiaota suddenly said, "Young master, do you need help?" Yi Xian was stunned and then he said, "Can you help?" Xiaota said, "Of course. Let me tell you, master's consciousness was almost devoured by others many times in the past, and it was always me who protected him. Simply speaking, when it comes to possession, so long as I, Xiaota, am around, then there won't be any mishaps." Yi Xian hurriedly said, "Then hurry up and help." Xiaota said, "All right." As he spoke, he transformed into a golden ray of light and entered Yi Xian's sea of consciousness. Bang! After he fused with Xiaota, Yi Xian's sea of consciousness instantly strengthened by more than 10 times. The woman's expression instantly changed greatly, and at this moment Yi Xian's consciousness drowned her consciousness. It wasn't destroyed. However, their consciousnesses had fused together. In an instant, countless memories of each other surged into their minds. At this moment, both of them were in each other's minds. Chapter 2088. Yi Xian was dumbfounded. The woman was also dumbfounded. Both of them were dumbfounded. Because neither of their consciousnesses was able to devour the other, the most important thing was that their consciousnesses seemed to have fused, and they both had the other's memories. There was me and you and me. Both of them were completely dumbfounded. Beloved. This woman's name was Beloved. And this woman was also a person from this world of the dead. Millions of years ago, the woman shocked this world the moment she was born. Because the woman was born with one of the 10 great evil bodies, the cursed body. The cursed body. Among all the evil bodies, it was ranked first. It symbolized a disaster and also an ominous sign. Because of this, the woman was not welcomed by her family when she was born. She didn't have any friends in her family and everyone despised her and hated her. Even her father didn't care about her. Only her mother was by her side. Although the woman was lonely, as long as her mother was there, she felt satisfied. But when she was 16, a disaster occurred in this world. The spiritual energy was exhausted. It was similar to the fifth dimension tribulation. In any universe, one's lifespan would come to an end. However, at that time, the people of this world thought that the disaster was caused by the woman. They thought that the Supreme Tendo was punishing the people of this world, and that the Tendo was punishing the people of this world because of Beloved. As a result, a tragedy occurred. In order to appease the public, the woman's family handed her over to the Tendo, but her mother was killed to protect her. Seeing her mother die in front of her, the woman's cursed body was completely awakened. Next, the woman used herself as a medium to curse the entire world. Not only would the people of this world be unable to leave, but they would also become the living dead, rotting and dying little by little. Not only them, but their descendants would also be cursed, unable to leave this world for generations to come. They would then rot and die. Yi Xian collected his thoughts. He had to admit that this Beloved was quite pitiful. At this moment, he somewhat understood why the woman's resentment was so great. Because the people of this city didn't even give her a chance, and they even forced the only person she could rely on to die in front of her. Yi Xian sighed in a low voice. What a sin. On the side, the Beloved stared at Yi Xian. At this moment, she also had all of Yi Xian's memories. However, there were 3 people whose memories she did not have. These 3 people were the woman in the plain dress, the man in the green shirt, and the swordsman. When she fused with Yi Xian's memories, everything about these 3 people was automatically displayed to her. She also wanted to forcefully explore them, but she was shocked to find that she couldn't do it at all. It was obvious that the 3 of them were stronger than her. Actually, when she saw Yi Xian's azure profound sword and that strand of sword qi, she already knew that the person behind Yi Xian was stronger than her. Otherwise, she would utterly not give Yi Xian the chance to compete. Negotiation. Without strength, who would negotiate with you? At this moment Yi Xian directly left her lover's body. Her lover looked at Yi Xian and didn't say anything. Yi Xian turned to look at Huang. You know the ins and outs of the matter, right? Huang nodded, yes. Yi Xian was silent. Huang said softly, those people in the past are all dead. Yi Xian looked at her lover. Lady beloved, I Yi Xian am not a good person. Because if someone dares to harm my loved ones, I will be even more ruthless than you. So, I will only take Lady Huang and Lady Cassiopeia, is that okay? After a moment of silence, beloved said, yes. Let the entire world go? She would not. But if she let 2 people go, she was willing to compromise. Yi Xian turned to look at Huang and Cassiopeia. Both of you, this is all I can do. Cassiopeia hurriedly nodded. Thank you, young Master Yi. If she didn't go out, she would die here sooner or later. Now she was just struggling at death's door because she couldn't resist the power of the curse. Even Huang couldn't resist it in the end. They could only barely delay it for a while. After a long silence, Huang nodded. Okay. Yi Xian didn't owe this world anything. She couldn't ask Yi Xian to do anything for this world. Asking him again would be too much. Yi Xian nodded slightly. Then let's go. At this moment Hong Zhao suddenly said, what about me? Yi Xian glanced at Hong Zhao. Do we know each other well? Hong Zhao. Yi Xian directly left with Huang and Cassiopeia. At this moment her lover suddenly said, wait. Yi Xian stopped. He turned to look at her, puzzled. Her lover stared at Yi Xian. You have all my memories. Yi Xian nodded. You also have my memories, we are even. Her lover said angrily, even? How can your memories help me? You've been acting all over your life. If you're not showing off, then you're on the way to show off. What's the value of those messy memories? Yi Xian, her lover suddenly said, I want to erase all your memories about me. Yi Xian hurriedly shook his head. No. Her lover's eyes narrowed slightly. What do you mean? Yi Xian thought for a moment and then said, this memory erasing is very harmful to the body. You can't do this. Of course, he wouldn't let his beloved erase her memories, because he now had all the memories of his beloved's cultivation. All of them. What did this mean? It meant that as long as he was given a little time, he would completely rise. Her lover stared fixedly at Yi Xian, not saying a word. Yi Xian smiled sheepishly. How about this? I give you some valuable memories, then we are even. What do you think? Her lover was expressionless. Valuable memories? You mean how to show off? Yi Xian. Meanwhile, her lover suddenly said, I cannot erase all your memories about me, but you have to do something for me. Yi Xian was slightly puzzled. What is it? Let me say this first, I'm weak and I'm afraid of death, so don't ask me to do something that even you can't do. Her lover spoke indifferently. Don't worry, I don't need you to do anything, I just want to borrow your sword. Borrow the sword. Yi Xian frowned slightly. Why do you want to borrow the sword? Her lover spoke indifferently. Just tell me if you want to borrow it or not. Yi Xian hesitated for a moment and then said, I don't want to borrow it. Her lover was expressionless. Then I'll erase all your memories about me. As she spoke, she was about to attack. Meanwhile, Yi Xian hurriedly said, it can be discussed. Discussed. Her lover fell silent for a moment and then she said, I don't want your sword, I just want to borrow it. If you're worried, you can come with me and I'll return it to you once I'm done using it. Yi Xian glanced at her. Are you sure? She nodded. You have my memories, so you should know what sort of person I am. Yi Xian fell silent for a moment and then he said, I can lend it to you, but you have to return it to me once you're done using it. She nodded. All right. Yi Xian turned around to look at Desolation and Jia Yi. Miss Desolation, Miss Jia Yi, both of you can leave first. Desolation hesitated for a moment and then she said, take care of yourself. As soon as she finished speaking, she left with Jia Yi. She knew that while her lover's strength was terrifying, he definitely wouldn't dare to kill Yi Xian. After Desolation and Jia Yi left, Yi Xian gazed at her lover. Miss dearest, why do you want to borrow my sword? She spoke indifferently. Come with me. As soon as she finished speaking, she turned around and left. Yi Xian hesitated for a moment and then he followed after her. His lover brought him out of the world of death. After that, the two of them passed through hundreds of starfields before they arrived at a lake, and there was a restaurant on the surface of the lake. Yi Xian gazed at her lover. Where are we? She didn't speak and just led him to the restaurant. Meanwhile, an old man blocked their path. The old man spoke in a hoarse voice. Miss dearest, he isn't qualified to enter. Yi Xian's face instantly darkened. She glanced at Yi Xian. Lend me your sword. Yi Xian spoke in a low voice. You're just going to leave me here? She gazed at Yi Xian. You can only enter with strength. Yi Xian walked over to the old man and looked him in the eyes. Do you think I'm very weak? The old man gazed at Yi Xian. Yes. Yi Xian opened his palm and the green profound sword appeared before the old man. This is a sword that I forged myself. Help me take a look and see if there's anything wrong with it. She gazed at Yi Xian. At this moment she finally understood what it meant to lie with one's eyes wide open. Doesn't this fellow blush when he lies? The old man's expression changed drastically when he saw the green profound sword in front of Yi Xian. Obviously he'd sensed how extraordinary the green profound sword was. Yi Xian spoke abruptly, don't just look at it. Come on, touch it and feel it. As he spoke he placed the green profound sword in the old man's hand. The old man hesitated for a moment and then he sensed it. As soon as he did, a sword suddenly flew over from out of nowhere. And then the old man wasn't even able to react before the sword pierced through his forehead. The old man was nailed to the spot and couldn't move at all. He was stunned. The old man's eyes opened wide and his mind went blank. What happened to me? She gazed deeply into the depths of the starry sky, and there was a wisp of a solemn expression in the depths of her eyes. The sword had come from the starry sky, but she didn't know where it had been drawn from. She seemed to have thought of something and she suddenly gazed at Yi Xian. That fellow asked her to sense the sword just now. When she thought up to this point she couldn't help but glare coldly at Yi Xian. This human is full of evil tricks. Actually Yi Xian was quite stunned as well. Because he hadn't expected that Qing would suddenly attack. After all, she wasn't here just now, right? Meanwhile the old man spoke in a trembling voice. Sir? This. Yi Xian hesitated for a moment and then he drew the path sword. He was just about to put it away when the path sword transformed into a ray of light that vanished into the distance. Yi Xian gazed at the old man and said, Can I go in now? The old man hurriedly said, Yes. Of course. Yi Xian gazed at her and said, Let's go. The two of them walked towards the pavilion. On the way she suddenly said, Didn't you say that you wouldn't call for help? Yi Xian gazed at her and said, I didn't. He sensed it himself. She fell silent for a short while before she said, You really are a genius. Yi Xian was speechless. After they entered the pavilion, Yi Xian noticed that there were around 10 rooms in the pavilion, and every single one of them had an extremely terrifying formation before it. Yi Xian gazed at her and she said indifferently, Let's go upstairs. She led Yi Xian up the stairs as she spoke. As they walked up the stairs, Yi Xian suddenly asked, Honey, why do you want to borrow the sword? She replied indifferently, To kill someone. She paused for a moment and said, But I've changed my mind. Yi Xian was just about to ask about it when a ridiculing voice suddenly resounded from upstairs. Aren't you Honey who lost to me? What? Are you looking for trouble again? Yi Xian looked over and saw a woman in a black dress sitting not too far away, and there was a saber hanging from her waist. Honey suddenly took the green profound sword from Yi Xian's hand, and then she walked over to the woman. Yi Xian frowned slightly. Is she going to do it just like that? Meanwhile, Honey walked over to the woman in a black dress, and she placed the green profound sword in front of her. Come, sense it. Yi Xian was dumbfounded. P.S. Why are there still 3 chapters today? I'm fucking willful. I like it. I'm happy. Unhappy? Hit me then. Chapter 2089. Try sensing it. Yi Xian had a strange expression on his face. He'd thought that Sweetheart would fight the woman in a black dress. Who was this black-dressed woman? Yi Xian sized her up. She was tall, wore a black dress that was black like ink, and her appearance wasn't inferior to Sweetheart's at all. However, the corners of her mouth were curled up slightly from time to time, and it made her seem slightly arrogant. There was a sheathed saber on her waist. The sheath was completely pitch black and there were countless mysterious characters inscribed on it. Who's she? Yi Xian was quite curious. The lady in the black dress glanced at the Xianxia sword in front of her lover. In the next moment she narrowed her eyes, and the sheathed long saber on her waist began to tremble slightly. Not only that, but a sharp saber intent enveloped the Xianxia sword. How could the green profound sword endure such provocation? A sword howl resounded as a strand of sword intent shot towards the sheathed saber. Bang! In an instant the entire pavilion started to tremble violently. However, the pavilion wasn't destroyed. Xian couldn't help but feel quite shocked because it was extraordinarily strong. Meanwhile, the woman's saber was about to leave its sheath, and the green profound sword was about to struggle free from Sweetheart's grasp. They were about to enter into battle. Right at this moment, a voice suddenly resounded. "You can't fight here." As soon as this voice resounded, Xian turned around and saw an old man with a pipe in his hand standing at the entrance. Both Sweetheart and the woman frowned slightly when they saw the old man. The old man glanced at the green profound sword in Sweetheart's grasp, and then he spat out a mouthful of smoke. "What a good sword. It's peerless in the world." The woman's brows knit together slightly when she heard this. "Old bastard, I'm not convinced by your evaluation." The old man grinned. "Miss Shilei, don't be. The strength of the owner of this sword far surpasses the creator of this sword." The woman called Shilei spoke indifferently. "Is that so?" The old man roared with laughter and then he gazed at Xian. He sized up Xian and said, "Young brother, your background isn't simple at all. May I know who your master is?" Xian thought for a moment before saying, "Tianming." "Tianming." The old man frowned slightly. "Tianming." As he spoke, a hint of battle intent flashed in his eyes. At the instant this trace of battle intent appeared, his pupils constricted. In the next moment, countless fine strands of sword energy had actually appeared throughout his body, and as these fine strands of sword energy appeared, his body started to vanish inch by inch. The expressions of the other two women changed drastically when they witnessed this scene. Xian was also stunned. What was going on? Qing'er is making a move? It shouldn't be. Qing'er wouldn't make a move for no reason. At the side, the old man suddenly put his palms together. "All heavens suppress me." Boom. In an instant, countless forces converged towards him. However, those forces were unable to suppress the tiny sword qi on his body. The old man hurriedly looked at Xian. "Little friend, please put in a good word for me." Xian hesitated for a moment and said, "Qing'er, forget it." Meanwhile, the fine strands of sword energy on the old man's body suddenly trembled slightly, and then they vanished as if they'd never existed. On the other hand, the old man was drenched in sweat, and his face was pale as a sheet. Xian hesitated for a moment and said, "Senior?" The old man laughed bitterly. "The life profundity. I never expected that your master would actually be at the life profundity." The life profundity. The expressions of the two women changed drastically when they heard the old man, and their eyes were filled with astonishment as they gazed at Xian. Xian frowned slightly. "The life profundity?" The old man was slightly surprised. "You don't know?" Xian nodded. "I don't." The old man spoke solemnly. "The life profundity. It's a realm of legend. According to legend, anyone who attains this realm can sense any living being that calls their name. No living being can call their name directly." Xian spoke solemnly. "That's not right. There were others who called Qing'er's name earlier but she didn't attack." The old man laughed bitterly. "When I called her name just now, I had the intention to challenge her." Xian was speechless. However, he was still slightly shocked. What realm is the life profundity? It's actually so mysterious. I can't call her name directly? Meanwhile, the old man spoke solemnly. "I never expected that there would actually be a life profundity realm expert in this world." Xian suddenly asked in his heart, "Xiao Ta, do you think Qing'er is at the life profundity realm?" Xiao Ta fell silent for a moment. "Never measure big sister Tianming by her realm. Just like those people you met in the past. They said that they could take a blow from big sister Tianming." Why did they say that? It's because they underestimated big sister Tianming. Of course, in those people's hearts, they thought that they overestimated big sister Tianming, but what is the truth? It's like a frog looking at the sky from the bottom of a well. In his eyes, the sky is only as big as the mouth of the well, but in reality? Speaking up to this point, it sighed in a low voice. "This old man in front of you, in your opinion, is very, very strong, but according to my experience, I'm afraid it won't be long before this old man becomes an ant." Xian didn't understand. Why? Xiao Ta was a little helpless. Why? "Young master, haven't you noticed? Our realm system has collapsed. From the beginning until now, do you remember how many realms you have cultivated?" Yi Xian fell silent for a moment. I can't remember. Xiao Ta said, isn't that it? Yi Xian frowned. Why is it like this? Xiao Ta said indifferently, I refuse to answer this question. Yi Xian didn't understand. Why? Xiao Ta was silent for a long time. You have a halo, but I don't necessarily have one. I better be careful with my words. If one day I, Xiao Ta, die without knowing why, that would be too much of a loss. Yi Xian. At this moment the old man suddenly said, young friend, is this your first time here? Yi Xian nodded. The old man hesitated, then took out a black card and handed it to Yi Xian. This is a VIP card. With this card, young friend can come here anytime in the future. Yi Xian was a little curious. Senior, this place is? The old man smiled. Dao Conference. Yi Xian frowned slightly. Dao Conference? The old man nodded. To enter the Dao Conference one must at least be in Prying Profound realm. Prying Profound? Yi Xian said in a deep voice. Above Prying Profound is Life Profound? The old man shook his head. No, above Prying Profound is Awareness Profound, and above Awareness Profound is Life Profound. As he spoke he glanced at the two women beside him. They are both in Prying Profound realm and I am half a step into Profound Awareness realm. Yi Xian was silent. The old man smiled. Young friend, although this Dao Conference is an organization, everyone is free in it. There are no restrictions and you can withdraw from the Dao Conference at any time. The purpose of this Dao Conference is to gather the top experts of this universe, and then everyone can discuss the Dao or exchange some things that they need. There are no restrictions. Yi Xian smiled bitterly. Senior, I mean my realm is so low, the old man hurriedly said. It doesn't matter, this rule is dead and people are alive. Yi Xian said with a smile. Then I'm in. The old man was very happy and immediately said, good young friend, if you need anything in the future just say it. As long as it is within my ability I will definitely not refuse. Yi Xian cupped his fists. Then I thank Senior in advance. The old man smiled. Don't be too polite, we are all on the same side. Yi Xian. At this time the old man glanced into the distance. Two ladies, if you want to fight, please go to another space-time. After speaking he turned and left. In the room the two women were silent. At this moment they were no longer in the mood to fight. Ming Xian. The good man glanced at Yi Xian. This guy's background is so big? That Shilei suddenly said. Good man, why are you here to gang up on me? The good man said indifferently. Gang up on you? You think too highly of yourself. Previously you relied on the saber in your hand to suppress me. Come, let's fight again now. Shilei sneered. Fight then fight. After speaking the good man directly disappeared from the spot. Yi Xian frowned slightly. He hesitated for a moment, but still chose not to follow. What was there to see when two women fought? The main reason was that he was afraid that the two women's strength was too strong, and it would affect him. Compared to the two women, there was still a huge gap between his current strength. At this time Xiao Ta said, young master, it's time to cultivate. Yi Xian nodded. Cultivate. In this place he became the little brother again. That won't do. Yi Xian directly entered Xiao Ta. He opened his palm and the green profound sword appeared in his hand. He slowly closed his eyes and then carefully felt the white day realm. One sword strike to slay a life. He wanted to cultivate this life slay to the extreme. Apart from that he also wanted to absorb the good man's memories. The good man's cultivation memories were very useful. In the following time, Yi Xian started a crazy cultivation mode. The White Day realm was a special spacetime, and how big was this spacetime? As far as he knew, this was an infinitely big spacetime. In other words, the power of his life slay could be infinitely big. And with the good man's memories he was very clear about the gap between him and the good man and the other experts of the same level. What he needed the most now was time. Cultivation knew no time. In the blink of an eye, a few dozen years had passed. Of course, only a few days had passed in the outside world. At this moment he could gather the flowing energy of the entire White Day realm into the green profound sword with a single thought. Moreover, he'd made a new breakthrough in the realm of spirit focus. In other words, his soul. Executing one sword strike to slay a life in a calm and focused state was unimaginable. However, Yi Xian didn't stop and he started to study reversing time. However, he realized that reversing time was much more difficult than going with time. Within Xiao Ta, Yi Xian sat cross-legged on the ground. The time within Xiao Ta was reversed, and since he could borrow the flowing energy of the White Day realm, why couldn't he borrow the power of time reversing in Xiaota? When he thought of this, Yi Xian instantly became excited. It's totally possible. Why didn't I think of this before? Just as Yi Xian was about to give it a try, he frowned and left Xiaota. Just as he left Xiaota, the good man appeared in front of him. At this moment, the good man was extremely miserable. Not only were her arms gone, but there was also a flying knife between her brows. Yi Xian was stunned and then said, "You," the good man said hoarsely, "I'm sorry, the sword was taken." Yi Xian frowned slightly. "Taken? You've never fought against that Xilei?" The good man's face was extremely ugly. "She has helpers. Go quickly, their target is you." Yi Xian was shocked. "What the F***ck? Why am I the target?" At this moment, a white light suddenly appeared between the good man's brows, and then she slowly fell down. Yi Xian's expression froze. "Xiao, what should I do?" After a moment of silence, Xiaota said, "Their target is you, what does it have to do with me, Xiaota?" Yi Xian. Chapter 2090. Looking at his lover in his arms, Yi Xian slightly frowned. What to do? Escape? Since the opponent could hurt his lover, it meant that he could not escape at all. Stay here? Yi Xian deeply frowned. The target was him. He had just revealed that he had a life-profound realm expert behind him, so why did the opponent dare to target him? At this moment, an old man walked in. It was the smoking pipe old man from before, Old Ghost. He had no name, so his lover and the others called him Old Ghost. Old Ghost glanced at his lover in Yi Xian's arms. He hesitated for a moment, then said, "My young friend," Yi Xian said in a deep voice. "Senior, are you here to let me leave?" Old Ghost bitterly smiled. Yi Xian looked at Old Ghost. "Who is targeting me?" Old Ghost hesitated before saying, "Young Master Lan." Yi Xian slightly frowned. "Young Master Lan?" Old Ghost nodded. "Young Master Yi, have you heard of the Tian family's Zhou clan?" Zhou clan. Yi Xian shook his head and looked at Old Ghost. This Old Ghost had changed the way he addressed him from little friend to young Master Yi. Obviously he could not stay here any longer. Old Ghost bitterly smiled. The Tian family's Zhou clan is the #1 clan in the metaverse. Saying this, he paused before saying, "The Zhou clan also has a life-profound realm expert." Yi Xian was puzzled. "Why am I his target?" Old Ghost said in a deep voice, "It should be young Master Ye's sword. Moreover, Lady Xilei is very close to that young Master Lan." Yi Xian slightly nodded. "I understand." Saying this, he looked at Old Ghost and smiled. "Senior, can you point out a path?" Old Ghost hesitated before saying, "How about we surrender?" Yi Xian's face was full of black lines. Old Ghost bitterly smiled. "Young Master Yi, I know you have a life-profound realm expert behind you, but there is only one person behind you. The Tian family's Zhou clan is not just one person, they are a colossus. Going against them alone is like throwing an egg against a rock." Yi Xian smiled and said, "I don't want to surrender. Senior, I know that they should be outside right now. What I mean is, how can I leave this place safely?" Old Ghost was silent. Yi Xian smiled. "Why not make a small bet?" Old Ghost glanced at Yi Xian. How could he not understand what Yi Xian meant? Should I form a good relationship with him? Old Ghost fell silent. To form this good karma, there is a risk because the ones targeting Yi Xian are the Tian family's Zhou clan. The slightest carelessness could lead to eternal damnation. After a long time, Old Ghost shook his head. "Young Master Yi, I'm sorry. This old man is powerless." Yi Xian smiled and said, "Understood." As he spoke, he put his beloved into Xiaota's body and walked outside. Without the Azure Profound Sword, he can't sneak away. Since he can't sneak away, then he will leave openly. Seeing Yi Xian walking outside, Old Ghost was silent. He knew that Yi Xian's origin isn't simple. However, no matter how extraordinary it is, can it be compared to the Tian family's Zhou clan? Not to mention a life-profound realm expert. Even if there are two of them, they don't have the qualifications to fight against the Tian family's Zhou clan. If you don't surrender, only death awaits. Just as Yi Xian left the pavilion, he saw a man and a woman. The woman is Xilei from before. As for the man, he is wearing a white robe with his long hair draped over his shoulders. He is playing with the Azure Profound Sword in his hand. Behind them there are two old men in black robes. This man is Zhou Lan. Zhou Lan looked at Yi Xian and smiled. "Your sword is very good. I want it." Xian hesitated for a moment and said, "You are Zhou Lan of the Tian family's Zhou clan?" The man's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. "You've heard of me?" Xian smiled bitterly. "Who hasn't heard of young Master Lan's name?" Zhou Lan laughed. "Interesting." As he spoke, he sized up Xian and said, "I really like this sword of yours." Xian immediately said, "Since young Master Lan likes it, then I will give it to you." Zhou Lan smiled. "You are very tactful. I like smart people." As he spoke, he sized up the azure profound sword and said, "I really like this sword. However, there seems to be a mysterious energy sealing it. I can't use it. You must know what's going on, right?" Xian nodded. "When my sister forged this sword, she placed a forbidden technique on it. Only she and I can use it. I can use it, but I can't unseal it. If you want to use it, you must sense this sword and contact my sister." Zhou Lan frowned. "Your sister?" Xian nodded. "She's the one who forged this sword." Zhou Lan smiled. "I'll contact her?" Xian nodded slightly. Meanwhile, Shilei suddenly said, "Be careful of a trap." Xian glanced at Shilei and smiled bitterly. "Miss Shilei, what trap could there be? He's just using this sword to contact my sister. Could it be that my younger sister could kill young Master Lan from countless star domains away? If that's the case, then it's too ridiculous." Shilei gazed at Xian. "You don't seem like an honest person." Xian was speechless. Meanwhile, Zhou Lan suddenly smiled and said, "Miss Shilei, you are too cautious." Just as he said, "Could his sister kill me from countless star fields away?" As he spoke, he held the azure profound sword in his right hand and slowly closed his eyes. Shilei hesitated for a moment. She wanted to persuade him, but she didn't in the end. She didn't believe that Zhou Lan could kill Zhou Lan from countless stellar regions away. After all, Zhou Lan was a half-step into the profound knowledge realm. Xian looked at Zhou Lan, hesitated for a moment and then glanced around. Meanwhile, Zhou Lan suddenly smiled and said, "You want to leave?" Xian looked at Zhou Lan and Zhou Lan smiled. "I didn't say you could leave. You'd better stay there and not move, understand?" Xian hurriedly nodded. "Yes, I understand." Zhou Lan smiled slightly and was about to say something when he suddenly looked up into the depths of the starry sky, and a smile appeared on his face. "I sensed qi." A sword appeared out of nowhere, and Zhou Lan didn't even have time to react before the sword pierced through his forehead. Bang! In an instant, Zhou Lan's body trembled violently, and his body and soul instantly started to become illusory. Instant kill. The expressions of Shilei and the two black-robed old men behind her instantly changed drastically. One of the black-robed old men said angrily, "How presumptuous! How dare you injure my Zhou clan?" He hadn't even finished speaking when the sword within Zhou Lan's body suddenly flew out and pierced through his forehead. The black-robed old man's voice stopped abruptly. He'd been instantly killed. He hadn't even been able to fight back. Shilei and the other black-robed old man were petrified on the spot. Meanwhile, Xian walked slowly over to Zhou Lan, and then he removed the green profound sword and spatial ring from Zhou Lan's finger. After that he said, "Young Master Lan, can I leave now?" Zhou Lan gazed at Xian. "If I die, then all 10 of your clans will be annihilated." 10 clans. Xian thought for a moment and said, "I'm really quite afraid if you want to annihilate me, but if you want to annihilate all 10 of my clans." When he spoke up to hear, he chuckled. Zhou Lan stared fixedly at Xian, and his eyes were filled with resentment. Besides resentment, there was a trace of terror as well. He noticed that he was really going to die. No one could save him. Meanwhile, Xian turned around and left. However, he'd only taken a few steps when he suddenly gazed at Shilei. Shilei's expression instantly changed drastically when she saw Xian look over, and she instinctively took a few steps back. Xian opened his palm and said, "Hand over your spatial ring." Shilei was speechless. Xian's brows knit together slightly while Shilei's expression instantly changed drastically. She hurriedly removed her spatial ring and then she tapped it with her finger. The spatial ring flew over to Xian. Xian didn't hold back at all. He immediately put the spatial ring away and then he turned around and left. He was very swift and instantly vanished into the starry sky. He'd fled. Shilei and Zhou Lan's minds were still blank on the spot. Young Master Lan is dead. He was killed with a single swing of the sword. Felt like a dream. On the other side, the old ghost's face was covered in astonishment as well. He hadn't expected such an outcome. Right at this moment an old man suddenly appeared here. The old man glanced at the surroundings before his gaze descended onto the black-robed old man. What happened? The black-robed old man hurriedly said, "Greetings, third elder." The old man spoke fiercely, "I'm asking you what happened?" The black-robed old man's voice trembled. "Young Master Lon was killed." The old man's eyes narrowed slightly. "Who did it?" The black-robed old man's voice trembled. I don't know." A wisp of ghastly killing intent flashed through the third elder's eyes. "Lonner was killed right in front of you, yet you say you don't know who killed him." The black-robed old man spoke bitterly. "Third elder, this is very strange." As he spoke he told the third elder about what happened just now. The third elder's eyes narrowed when he finished listening to the black-robed old man. A long time passed before he glanced at the surroundings and said, "Send my orders. Anyone who kills these two will be rewarded with 100 star veins. Anyone who can provide their whereabouts will be rewarded with 50 star veins." The black-robed old man bowed slightly. "Understood." As he finished speaking he retreated. The third elder coldly glanced around, his eyes filled with malevolence. "Who dares to touch the Tian family's Zhou clan?" As he spoke he was about to leave. At this moment the old ghost suddenly appeared at the side. He looked at the third elder and said, "Your Excellency, the one who killed young Master Lon should be that woman called Tian Ming." When he said this he was very careful and there was not the slightest bit of disrespect in his heart. Facing a life-profound realm expert, even the slightest bit of disrespect would be known by the other party. The reason why he came out was to form a good relationship with the Tian family's Zhou clan, and at the same time, to remind them that there was a life-profound realm expert behind Zhou Xian. The third elder frowned slightly. "Tian Ming?" The old ghost nodded. "It was this person who killed young Master Lon across a star field. Because I came into contact with this person before, he should be at the life-profound realm, and this person is behind Zhou Xian. Young Master Lon didn't know that Zhou Xian was dangerous, so he forcefully tried to sense this person and was killed by this person in the end." The third elder's eyes flashed with malevolence. "How could it be life-profound realm? The Tian family's Zhou clan knows all the life-profound realm experts in the Mortal Yuan universe, but I have never heard of this Tian Ming. The old ghost hurriedly said, "Third elder, you must not be disrespectful to her, otherwise." The third elder mocked. "What? Can she kill me in a second?" As he spoke he raised his head and looked around, then he grinned. "Tian Ming? Life profound? If you have the ability then kill me in a second, come." Before he finished speaking, a sword directly pierced his forehead. His voice stopped abruptly. At the side the old ghost's face was filled with shock. At this moment there was only one thought in his mind. Did I harm him? Chapter 2091. At this moment the third elder was completely stupefied. He was insta-killed. He had never thought that he would die in such a sullen manner. He didn't even see who it was. It really was Ming Xian. The third elder gulped. He looked at the old ghost beside him and said with a trembling voice, It's really Ming Xian." Old ghost hesitated for a moment then nodded. The third elder roared, "Why didn't you say so earlier?" Old ghost was dumbfounded. "Didn't I say it?" It seemed like he himself didn't believe it. Meanwhile, third elder had vanished completely. Directly annihilated. Gone. Old ghost froze on the spot and his mind was in a mess. A living person was gone just like that. Did he underestimate that woman called Tian Ming? This thought suddenly appeared in Old Devil's mind. Could it be that the opponent was not only at the life-profound realm? As soon as this thought appeared in his mind, Old Ghost shook his head and smiled. He felt that this idea of his was somewhat absurd. Even the Tian family's Zhou clan doesn't have an esper above life mystic realm. That woman was above life profound? Absolutely impossible. Thinking of this, he hesitated for a moment before getting up and heading to the Tian family's Zhou clan. He still did not want to let go of this good karma, so he wanted to remind the experts of the Tian family and Zhou clan to be careful of the plain-dressed woman. In an unknown part of the starry sky within the Xiaota, Zhou Xian looked at his lover in front of him. His lover's injuries had already recovered. Her lover looked at Zhou Xian. "Why are you looking at me?" Zhou Xian spoke in a low voice. "Not long ago, you were still an invincible existence. But now you've been hung up and beaten. I realized that my power couldn't keep up with the speed of the map's changes. If this goes on, I might be played to death. The man said angrily, the four of them are ganging up on me. Xian sighed in a low voice. He sat aside and didn't say anything else. Needless to say, with the appearance of this Tian family's Zhou clan, he was having a headache. He had just come out of close seclusion and his strength increased greatly. However, what he did not expect was that the enemy changed again. How could this be? Xian had a headache. At this time his lover suddenly said, "What are you going to do?" Xian looked at his lover. "Do you think they'll let you off?" Her lover was silent. Xian suddenly said, "My beloved lady, let us join forces to destroy the Tian family and the Zhou family." The man looked at Xian. "You don't have a fever, do you?" Xian's face darkened. "You're the one who's horny." The man frowned. "If you don't have a fever, why would you say such ignorant words?" Xian calmly said, "Is the Tian family's Zhou family very strong?" Liang Ren stared at Xian. "I can understand if you don't know about the Dao organization. After all, the Dao organization is a relatively secretive organization, but you don't know about the Tian family and the Zhou family. This is really abnormal." Xian smiled and asked, "Is he very strong?" "The Tian clan's Zhou clan has at least 3 life profound realm experts. Do you think they're strong?" "Life profound?" Xian nodded and said nothing. His beloved said in a deep voice, "The person behind you dares to kill the Tian family's Zhou family's people." At this point she frowned. "She's not life profound?" Xian smiled. "Lady Liang, let me ask you. Do you want to destroy the Zhou family?" Liang Ren looked at Xian. "Just you and me?" Xian nodded. Liang Ren shook her head. "Impossible." Xian chuckled. "If you're willing to believe me, then we'll join hands. If you don't believe me, then you can leave now. I'll go play with them myself." Liang Ren sank. After a long silence she stood up and turned to leave. But after 2 steps she stopped and turned to look at Xian. "I believe you." Xian nodded. "Now the first step is to cultivate." Liang Ren frowned. "Cultivate now?" Xian nodded. Liang Ren said in a deep voice, "Is it useful?" Xian took a look around and then said, "Look here." Liang Ren looked around. The next moment her face changed. The flow of time was different. Liang Ren looked at Xian. "If outsiders know about this Xiao, the entire metaverse will go crazy." Xian smiled. "Then don't let outsiders know. Lady Liang Ren, your first goal is to reach profound awareness. At the same time, give me some pointers. In terms of cultivation, I need your help." Liang Ren nodded. "Okay." Xian opened his palm. The green profound sword appeared in his hand. He looked at Liang Ren. "Lady Liang Ren, I want to see the power of my sword. Be careful." As he spoke, he directly brought his beloved to a deathly silent star field. This star region was devoid of spirit energy. There was no life. It was perfect for cultivation and fighting. Xian looked at Liang Ren. "Lady Liang Ren, be careful." As soon as he said this, an endless flow of power gathered in the green profound sword. The next moment her thumb lightly flicked and the sword struck out. In the distance Liang Ren's pupils shrank. Facing Xian's terrifying sword, she didn't dare to be careless. She took a step forward and pointed out with a finger. As this finger fell, the space-time in front of her caved in. Within that caved-in space-time, countless mysterious forces were wildly destroying everything. However, these forces were quickly annihilated as soon as they appeared. Seeing this scene, Liang Ren was shocked. Her figure trembled and she retreated hundreds of thousands of feet away. And with Xian as the center, the spacetime in a radius of hundreds of thousands of feet was completely annihilated. In the distance, Liang Ren stared at Xian. "World of daylight." Xian nodded. "What do you think about the power of my sword?" Liang Ren was silent for a moment. "Invincible." Xian was stunned. "Invincible?" Liang Ren nodded. Xian frowned. "How can that be? That sword just now couldn't do anything to you at all." The man shook his head. "You're wrong. If I had chosen to face you head-on, I would have died under your sword." Xian said solemnly, "Isn't it still useless?" Her lover glared at Xian. "You call this useless? Do you know that this sword of yours has caused time to flow for tens of thousands of years? Under the flow of time, any power will be destroyed. Of course, it was not absolute. A life-profound realm expert should be able to block your power. However, I cannot be certain. Then she shook her head. No one under the life profound realm dares to fight you. If you hadn't attacked first, I would have died for sure. Xian understood. Backup plan. If his beloved made the first move and he made the second move, it meant that his beloved would not be able to dodge his sword. Once they met head-on, those below the life profound realm would die without a doubt. Thinking of this, the corners of Xian's mouth lifted slightly. This sword was still effective. Her lover looked at Xian. How did you draw out the power of the White Day world? Xian waved the profound azure sword in his hand. Her lover looked deeply at Xian. Your sister is definitely not just at the life profound realm. Xian was a bit puzzled. Is it so difficult to draw out the power of the White Day world? Her lover shook her head. You can try without this sword. Xian smiled. Without the profound azure sword, he realized that he really could not draw it out. He also did not dare to draw it out. He could not endure the power of the White Day world. In fact, he did not say that he did not use his full strength in that sword. What was it? A full-strength sword? In a calm and focused state, he could summon the power of the 10,000 worlds in the heavens and earth. Moreover, he could activate the power of his bloodline, sword force and momentum. Finally, he could use the life-severing sword. This state was his strongest sword. As for how strong this sword was, he did not know. In any case, as long as the life profound realm did not come out, he should be able to do whatever he wanted. Thinking of this, Xian could not help but grin. Actually, it was not a bad thing for the enemy to be a bit stronger. The stronger the enemy, the more motivation he would have. Life should have a bit of difficulty. Zhou Clan? Challenge him. Xian withdrew his thoughts and said, Lady lover, let us continue to cultivate. Next, I want to cultivate against time. Her lover frowned slightly. Against time? Xian nodded slightly. In fact, he had long wanted to cultivate against time. It was to use the profound azure sword to draw out the power of time in Xiaota's body. Under normal circumstances, a prying profound realm expert could only reverse time for about a breath of time. However, the time in Xiaota's body was different from the outside. It was the complete opposite of the White Day world. Just imagine he could reverse 10 years with one sword. As if he thought of something, Xian's pupils suddenly shrank. Cutting the future. Damn it. Did father use this method to reverse time when he slashed the future? If he could really draw out the power of time in Xiaota's body, wouldn't it mean that he could cut the future with one sword? It was very mysterious. But Xian was very excited because his intuition told him that it should be possible. Next time, Xian said, Xiaota, I may need your cooperation. Xiaota said in a deep voice, How can I cooperate with you? Xian said, I need the power of time in Xiaota's body. Xiaota said, Young master, I also do not know what kind of power it is. In any case, it was left here by Sister Tianming. For now, there should be no limit to that power. Xian nodded, I want to try. If you sense anything, tell me. Xiaota said, Okay. Xian opened his palm and the green profound sword floated above his palm. In the next moment he slowly closed his eyes. At the same time Xiaota in his body began to tremble slightly. In the distance Darling looked at Xian and frowned slightly. This guy wants to reverse time? Actually, she could also reverse time. However, she could only reverse time for about 10 breaths. Against a powerhouse with a lower realm than her, this was very useful. With a reverse time, the opponent would not be able to fight back. However, against an opponent of the same realm, this was too useless. Because everyone could reverse time and it consumed a lot of energy. At this moment, the green profound sword in Xian's hand suddenly trembled slightly. In the next moment, a mysterious power suddenly surged into the green profound sword and the surrounding starlight suddenly became distorted. At this moment, Xian suddenly slashed at Darling. Darling frowned slightly and was about to defend, but in the next moment she found that she was completely fine. What was going on? After a quarter of an hour, Darling's eyes suddenly narrowed because a strand of hair beside her ear had silently fallen off. Slashing the future. What was slashing the future? With this slash of my sword, the one who dies is not the current you but the future you. At this moment Xian suddenly roared, I'm invincible. Dad, come out, I'm going to beat you to death. Xiaota. P.S. Happy Labor Day. Brothers who go home, be careful. Everyone eat well and have fun. As for me, I won't go out on Labor Day. I'll focus on writing at home. I love you all. Chapter 2092. Calm down. Xiaota hurriedly said, Young master, calm down. Calm down. Yi Xian's blood is boiling and he said excitedly, I can't calm down. Xiao Ta, we are going to rise. Xiao Ta said in a deep voice, young master, you are already able to sever the future, but master can do it too. Dad can do it too. Yi Xian blinked his eyes and his mind suddenly became a little clearer. Xiao Ta hesitated for a moment and then said, what you know now might be the leftovers from his previous play. Yi Xian's face instantly darkened. Xiao Ta continued, but I think you should be able to fight with master now, and the next time you meet you can fight with him. If you can beat him then kill him, if you can't then just surrender. In any case, it's not shameful for a son to surrender to his dad. Yi Xian thought for a moment and then he nodded, that makes sense. At this moment his beloved suddenly said, how did you do it? Yi Xian looked at his beloved, and his beloved's eyes are filled with disbelief. Yi Xian laughed, isn't this a very simple matter? I just need a pagoda and a sword. His beloved's expression froze. Damn it. She wants to kill this idiot in front of her. If he has a pagoda and a sword, it is indeed very simple, but the problem is, where can he find this pagoda and this sword? Comparing oneself to others is really infuriating. Yi Xian continued to cultivate this sever the future, but he quickly realized that this power of reverse time is very difficult to control, and he can at most reverse time for half a quarter of an hour. After that he realized that it is very difficult. Moreover, he realized that the power of reverse time within Xiao Ta is completely different from his beloveds and the others. The power of reverse time from his beloveds and the others allows them to return to a breath of time, but his power of reverse time directly targets the opponent's future. There is a fundamental difference. Actually, they are both reverse time, but the reverse direction is different. Needless to say, at this moment his beloved's heart is very shocked. No, shocked. Yi Xian's severing life and severing future were truly terrifying. In this world, aside from the life-profound realm, there was probably no one who could be his opponent. Not long ago she could have pinched this guy to death with one hand. But now she might not be his opponent. Was this the second generation? Cultivation does not rely on cultivation but on fighting. Yi Xian suddenly said, dear lady, let's go. His lover looked at Yi Xian. To the Zhou clan? Yi Xian laughed. Yes. His lover hesitated for a moment and said, do you want to cultivate for a while longer? Yi Xian frowned. Why? Are you afraid that I can't beat them? His lover nodded honestly. They have at least 3 life-profound realm experts. Yi Xian waved his hand. They're just ants. After that he directly left Xiao Ta. In Xiao Ta's room his lover was having a headache. Why is this guy so arrogant? Heaven realm. In the Yuan universe the Zhou clan is undoubtedly a colossus. Could be said that if the Zhou clan lightly stomps their feet, the entire Yuan universe will tremble. But now something happened in the Zhou clan that wasn't too big or too small for the Zhou clan. A young master and an elder of the Zhou clan died. Zhou Lan's position in the Zhou clan was not particularly high and he was not a core member. However, he was from the Zhou clan and someone dared to kill him. This was equivalent to slapping the Zhou clan's face. Most importantly, the third elder was also killed. Although there were internal conflicts within the Zhou clan, when faced with this matter, everyone was unusually united. Those who dared to provoke the Zhou clan must be exterminated. On this day a great elder of the Zhou clan left the heaven realm. This person's name is Zhou Hao, a great elder of the Zhou clan and a life-profound realm expert. He directly sent out a life-profound realm expert. Because since the other party dared to go against the Zhou clan, it was very obvious that the other party was a life-profound realm expert. Since it was a life-profound realm expert, then a life-profound realm expert was needed to deal with it. Just as Zhou Hao left the heaven realm, he met Elder Ghost who came to report. Zhou Hao also knew this Elder Ghost because according to the Zhou clan's information, Elder Ghost was present when Zhou Lan was killed. The spectral elder immediately bowed respectfully when he saw Zhou Hao. He was extremely humble. Life-profound realm. This was undoubtedly the existence at the top of the pyramid of the Yuan universe. Zhou Hao looked at Elder Ghost. You were there? Elder Ghost nodded. Yes. Zhou Hao's expression was calm. Tell me. Elder Ghost quickly said, the one who killed young Master Zhou Lan was a woman called Tian Ming. She was a life-profound realm expert. Life-profound realm. Zhou Hao frowned. I've never heard of this person. Elder Ghost smiled bitterly. She is indeed a life-profound realm expert. Moreover, I know how to contact her. Zhou Hao looked at Elder Ghost. How? Elder Ghost whispered a few words. Zhou Hao frowned, like this. Elder Ghost nodded. Zhou Hao said softly, I never thought there would be another life-profound realm expert. As he spoke, he lifted his head towards the faraway stars and slowly closed his eyes. Tianming, come out and fight. Come out and fight. He knew that if the opponent was a life-profound realm expert he would be able to hear him. However, there was no response. Zhou Hao frowned and looked towards the depths of the stars. You don't dare. This. As soon as he finished speaking, a sword suddenly sank into Zhou Hao's forehead. Boom. In an instant Zhou Hao's body violently trembled. His flesh and soul instantly dissipated. Directly erased. Directly gone. All the nonsense before death was gone. Elder Ghost was dumbfounded. This person was gone just like that. Soon, Elder Ghost's body began to tremble. Not only that, his face paled and cold sweat flowed. This was extreme fear. Instantly killing a life-profound realm expert? If it hadn't happened right in front of him he would never have believed it. Someone had instantly killed a life-profound realm expert. Did he underestimate Tianming? At this moment, Elder Ghost didn't think this idea was absurd anymore. At this moment the sword in front of Elder Ghost suddenly trembled and then disappeared. Elder Ghost hesitated for a moment, then bowed respectfully before turning to leave. His body was still trembling as he walked. Life-profound realm? It was obvious that the woman wasn't a life-profound realm expert. Young Master Yi. Elder Ghost suddenly felt that young Master Yi was actually quite a nice person. What a low-key, modest and gentle person. Yi Xian. Not long after Elder Ghost left, a middle-aged man appeared. It was the Zhou clan's patriarch Zhou Qing. Beside Zhou Qing was a woman. She wore a long purple dress and her features were picturesque. She was extremely beautiful. This person was the #1 monster of the primordial universe, Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian glanced at the surroundings with a calm expression. Since they were able to kill second uncle without anyone noticing, it means that they either have 3 life-profound realm experts, or their strength is far above the life-profound realm. Above the life-profound realm. Zhou Qing frowned when he heard this. That's not possible. Zhou Xian glanced at the surroundings and spoke in a low voice. It's not possible. However, even 3 life-profound sword realm experts wouldn't be able to kill second uncle without anyone noticing. When she spoke up to this point she slowly closed her eyes. My Zhou clan might be in trouble. Trouble? Zhou Qing frowned slightly. It can't be that bad, right? Zhou Xian shook her head slightly. Father, we've already lost a life-profound realm expert and he died without anyone noticing. Isn't that troublesome? Zhou Qing fell silent. Zhou Xian glanced at the surroundings and said, My Zhou clan has been invincible since 10 million years ago. Under such circumstances, it's unavoidable for our clansmen to become arrogant and look down on others. When she spoke up to this point she shook her head slightly. It's very likely that things will go south. Zhou Qing looked at Zhou Xian. What do you think we should do? Zhou Xian fell silent for a moment and then she said, The cause of this is that youth called Yi Xian. I'll go investigate. Zhou Qing frowned slightly. You'll go investigate? Zhou Xian nodded. I'll do it myself. Zhou Qing said in a deep voice. In half a month, you will become the Zhou clan leader. At this time how can you? Zhou Xian looked at Zhou Qing. This concerns the rise and fall of my Zhou clan. No, it concerns the survival of my Zhou clan. I have to personally investigate this youth called Yi Xian. Before I finish investigating, the clan is not allowed to send anyone to target him, and we are not allowed to find trouble with him. Zhou Qing hesitated for a moment and then nodded. All right. Although he was the clan leader, the power of the Zhou clan was already in Zhou Xian's hands. Of course, he wasn't unhappy because this was his own daughter. Other than those few perverts who wouldn't want their children to be stronger than them. Zhou Xian said again, Father, when I'm not here, you must restrain the clansmen, especially those rich playboys of the younger generation. Zhou Qing smiled. I know. When you come into contact with that Yi Xian you must also be careful. As you said, there might be a huge unknown force behind him. Zhou Xian nodded slightly. I will. As she spoke, she turned around and disappeared into the horizon. Zhou Qing looked into the distant horizon and frowned. An unknown mysterious force? After a moment of silence he turned and left. On the other side, Yi Xian headed straight for the Zhou clan in the heavenly world. Right now he wanted to fight. Fight. Invincible. This feeling was back again. At this moment Yi Xian suddenly stopped. Not far away a middle-aged man appeared. The middle-aged man was dressed in a luxurious robe, and his hands were hidden in his wide sleeves. Behind the middle-aged man, there were two black-robed elders with cold expressions on their faces. It was obvious that the three of them were not easy to deal with. Yi Xian sized up the three of them and then said, "You are?" The middle-aged man in the lead sized up Yi Xian, then took out a portrait and looked at it. Following that he looked at Yi Xian. "You are Yi Xian?" Yi Xian nodded. The middle-aged man nodded slightly. "That's right." As he spoke he clenched his right fist. Yi Xian suddenly said, "You are?" The middle-aged man grinned coldly. "You are wanted by the Tian clan. Your head can be exchanged for dozens of star veins." Dozens of star veins. Yi Xian frowned slightly. "So little?" The middle-aged man stared at Yi Xian. "Is it little?" Yi Xian smiled, then suddenly pulled out his sword and slashed, then turned around and left. The middle-aged man was slightly stunned, a little puzzled. "What are you doing?" Yi Xian didn't speak and continued to walk into the distance. The middle-aged man's eyes flashed a touch of malevolence. "Ignoring us?" At this moment his eyebrows suddenly split open and a stream of blood spurted out. Slashing the future. The middle-aged man's eyes were wide open, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. In the distance Yi Xian suddenly stopped. He looked up into the depths of the starry sky with a trace of loneliness in his eyes. Invincible, so lonely. Xiao Ta. Chapter 2093. Being invincible is really lonely. Xiao Ta said in a deep voice. "Young master, have you forgotten the rule that you can't stay cool for more than 3 days?" Yi Xian laughed. "This time it will definitely be different." His words were filled with invincible confidence. Xiao Ta wanted to say something but hesitated. Yi Xian smiled. "Why? You don't believe me?" Xiao Ta sighed. "Young master, it's better for you to keep a low profile." Yi Xian laughed. "If one isn't frivolous it would be a waste of youth." Xiao Ta. Yi Xian directly disappeared into the starry sky. Inside Xiao Ta his lover was also cultivating. Her improvement could be described as terrifying. After all, she was cultivating inside Xiao Ta. Most importantly, there were more than 100 star veins inside Xiao Ta. There was a lot of spiritual energy. Not long after Yi Xian stopped. Not far in front of him there was a huge starry sky city. Yi Xian looked at the huge city. Above the gate there were 3 big words. Chaoyuan City. Yi Xian walked towards Chaoyuan City. As soon as he arrived at the city gates, a woman suddenly walked out of the city. The woman was dressed in a long purple dress and had a purple belt around her waist. Her waist was slender. The two of them were about to pass each other. At this moment the woman suddenly stopped and turned to look at Yi Xian. "Young Master Yi?" Yi Xian stopped and looked at the woman. "You know me?" The woman nodded. Yi Xian smiled. "You're from the Zhou clan?" The woman was slightly stunned. Obviously, she didn't expect Yi Xian to suddenly ask such a question. And she was Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian was straightforward, nodding his head slightly to acknowledge his identity. Yi Xian looked around and said, "I don't sense anyone powerful. Did you come alone?" Zhou Xian smiled. "Can I talk to young Master Yi alone?" Yi Xian nodded. "Sure." Zhou Xian nodded. "Young Master Yi, follow me." After saying that she turned around and walked towards the city. On the way Zhou Xian said softly, "This city was originally called Imperial Flourishing City. It was once the capital city of a super empire. Later on that super empire was destroyed overnight. Then this city fell into the hands of my Zhou clan." Yi Xian was a little curious. Super empire? Zhou Xian glanced at Yi Xian. Xianxia. Yi Xian frowned. "Never heard of it." Zhou Xian smiled faintly. "Looks like young Master Yi came from another place." Yi Xian nodded. He looked around. The city was very ancient and there were all kinds of runes drawn on the walls. Clearly this was some kind of array formation. As if he had thought of something, Yi Xian suddenly asked, "Miss, you said that a super empire was suddenly destroyed. How was it destroyed?" Zhou Xian whispered, "It was said that it was destroyed by a swordsman." "Swordsman?" Yi Xian frowned slightly. "What kind of swordsman?" Zhou Xian said, "I don't know his name." I only know that he wore a cloud-white robe. Hearing that, Yi Xian suddenly exclaimed, F***CK. Zhou Xian turned to look at Yi Xian. Young Master Yi knows him? Yi Xian's expression turned strange. Big brother? That shouldn't be the case. Big brother is different from Qing'er. He usually finds people to spar with. Why would he destroy a city? Could there be another reason? At this moment Zhou Xian suddenly asked, Young Master Yi knows that swordsman? Yi Xian glanced at Zhou Xian. If I said that I know him, would you believe me? Zhou Xian nodded. I believe you. Yi Xian was a little puzzled. Why do you believe me? Zhou Xian smiled and did not say a word. Yi Xian was about to speak when Zhou Xian led Yi Xian into a luxurious restaurant. Why was it luxurious? This was because this restaurant was actually constructed from various types of precious crystals. After entering the restaurant, a very beautiful woman walked over slowly. The woman walked in front of Zhou Xian and Yi Xian and bowed respectfully. Zhou Xian took out a card and handed it to the woman. The woman was slightly taken aback before she took the card and said, Miss, please follow me. After that she gestured for him to go ahead, then turned around and walked upstairs. Zhou Xian led Yi Xian and followed. Yi Xian sized up the woman leading the way. He was a little speechless. This woman was wearing too little, especially her chest. She deliberately revealed half of it. Although it was very big, he still felt that it was not good. He was a man of honor. Under the woman's lead, Yi Xian and Zhou Xian came to a side room. The two of them sat by the window. From this position they could see half of the city. The scenery was very good. After the woman left, Zhou Xian looked at Yi Xian. Young Master Yi, are you going to the heaven realm this time? Yi Xian nodded. Zhou Xian was silent for a moment before saying, Revenge? Yi Xian nodded. Yes. Isn't your Zhou clan searching for me everywhere? There is no need to search for me. I will do it myself. Zhou Xian smiled. Young Master Yi, do you know that the Zhou clan has a few life-profound realm experts? Yi Xian nodded. I know. Zhou Xian looked at Yi Xian. Then young Master Yi is still going? Yi Xian suddenly asked, Miss, is the life-profound realm very strong? Zhou Xian was slightly startled and asked back, Not strong? Yi Xian smiled without saying a word. Zhou Xian was silent for a moment before saying, Young Master Yi, the matter between you and the Zhou clan is a misunderstanding. I came to find you today to resolve this misunderstanding. Yi Xian looked at Zhou Xian. Can you represent the Zhou clan? Zhou Xian nodded. Yes. Yi Xian nodded. Since it is a misunderstanding, then we are fine. Fine. Zhou Xian looked at Yi Xian. Really? Yi Xian nodded. Zhou Xian was silent for a long time before saying, Then we are fine. Yi Xian stood up and smiled. Miss, can you help me with something? Zhou Xian said, Tell me. Yi Xian smiled. Where can I find a life-profound realm expert? Zhou Xian looked at Yi Xian. You want to find a life-profound realm expert? Yi Xian nodded. I want to spar with a life-profound realm expert. Zhou Xian was silent for a long time before saying, I'm afraid it will be difficult to help young Master Yi with this favor. Yi Xian was puzzled. Why? Zhou Xian said, Because life-profound realm experts are the peak existences in the metaverse. Sparring with them is very difficult. Yi Xian said with a smile, All right. Zhou Xian suddenly said, If young Master Yi wants to find someone to spar with, I know a place in Daoist that can bring young Master Yi there. Yi Xian was curious. Where? Zhou Xian looked at Yi Xian. The Emperor's tomb. Yi Xian frowned. The Emperor's tomb? Zhou Xian nodded. The Emperor's tomb of Xianxia. Some of the fallen emperors of Xianxia are buried there. That place is very dangerous. Young Master Yi can go there. Yi Xian suddenly walked in front of Zhou Xian and looked at her. Miss, you want to kill me with a borrowed knife. Zhou Xian smiled faintly. Young Master Yi can go or not go. The choice is in young Master Yi's hands. Yi Xian smiled. Miss, you're so bad. Zhou Xian suddenly said, I'll accompany young Master Yi. Yi Xian was slightly stunned. You're going? Zhou Xian nodded. I'll accompany you. I can also take a look at the Emperor's tomb. Yi Xian was silent. Xiao Ta suddenly said, Young Master, it's better if you don't go. Yi Xian smiled. Why? Xiao Ta said in a deep voice, This is a new place. Aren't you afraid of becoming a little brother? Xian was speechless. At this moment the door to the room suddenly opened and a man walked in. Zhou Xian frowned slightly. Xian looked at the man who walked in. The man sized up Zhou Xian and then looked at Xian. Xian. Xian smiled. Yes. The man smiled. Do you know who I am? Xian shook his head. The man's lips curled up. My surname is Zhou. Xian was slightly stunned. Then he turned to look at Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian looked at Xian. I'll handle it. Xian nodded. All right. Zhou Xian turned to look at the man. Do you know who I am? The man looked at Zhou Xian and smiled. You're Xian's woman? Xian suddenly said, Brother, watch your words. I'm not a casual person. Really, I'm not casual. Zhou Xian looked at the man. Are you sure you don't know me? The man looked straight at Zhou Xian. Why? Are you threatening me? Zhou Xian frowned. What's your name? The man smiled. Zhou. Have you heard of me? Zhou Xian's frown deepened. She had never heard of him. It was normal that she did not know this man. After all, the Zhou clan was too big. There were at least tens of thousands of disciples in the main clan alone. There were countless branches. However, it was not normal that Zhou did not know her. Because she was the young clan leader of the Zhou clan and would soon be the clan leader. Zhou Xian was silent for a moment. Who is your father? Zhou smiled. Woman, after we kill this Xian, you will follow me. Zhou Xian suddenly placed her right hand on Zhou shoulder. The next moment she exerted force. In an instant Zhou entire body shattered into powder. Only his soul was left. Zhou was dumbfounded. The next moment Zhou suddenly said ferociously, Bitch, how dare you hurt me? How dare you disrespect my Zhou clan? As he spoke, he suddenly opened his palm. A flame talisman suddenly shot into the sky. Call for help. Zhou Xian was silent for a moment. She sat down beside Xian and remained silent. In the distance, Zhou suddenly looked at Xian and said resentfully, Xian, your 10 clans will be annihilated. Xian frowned. My God, is there something wrong with you? She was the one who hit you. Why are you looking for me? Zhou said angrily, She is your woman. Xian said seriously, She really is not. Zhou stared at Xian. Xian, this metaverse belongs to my Zhou clan. If you dare to touch me, you will be touching the entire Zhou clan. Your 10 clans will be annihilated. Xian shook his head. He was speechless. Was there really such a stupid person in the world? Back in the city of Qing, most of the aristocratic disciples who had competed with him were shrewd people, each more cunning than the last. Why were the people in this kind of place as dumb as idiots? At this moment Zhou Xian said softly, Are the younger generation of the Zhou clan all like this? At this moment, there was a trace of worry in her eyes. Useless fools. She did not expect the younger generation of the Zhou clan to be like this. Had their lives been too easy these past few years? At this moment Zhou suddenly laughed loudly. Ha! Xian, my people are here. My Zhou clan's experts are here. Just wait for your death. Looking at Zhou Xian said, You remind me of someone. Zhou frowned slightly. Who? Xian said softly, Tian Yi. It had to be said that Tian Yi was really amazing. He had said that he could fight Tian Yi. Chapter 2094. Meanwhile, an old man walked into the room. As soon as the old man entered, Zhou immediately said, Uncle Nan, save me. As he spoke, he pointed furiously at Zhou Xian. That bitch dared to hit me and even threatened to destroy my Zhou clan. Zhou Xian's expression was calm and he remained silent. Zhou Xian's eyes narrowed slightly when he heard Zhou, and then a wisp of coldness flashed through his eyes. He turned around to look at Zhou Xian and he was instantly stunned when he saw Zhou Xian. A moment later he strode over to Zhou Xian, bowed respectfully and spoke with a trembling voice. Young patriarch. The young patriarch. Both Xian and Zhou were stunned when they heard Zhou. Xian was stunned because he knew that Zhou Xian's status in the Zhou clan wasn't low, but he hadn't imagined that Zhou Xian would actually be the young patriarch. Zhou's figure suddenly started trembling. Who was Zhou Xian? He was the most monstrous genius of the Zhou clan. Not only was he the young patriarch of the entire Zhou clan, he was about to become the patriarch of the Zhou clan. The reason he didn't know Zhou Xian was because Zhou Xian was merely the young master of a branch of the Zhou clan. Not to mention the core of the Zhou clan, someone like him couldn't even be considered as a member of the outer circle. Moreover, he didn't even have the qualifications to come into contact with an existence like Zhou Xian. Zhou Qi's legs felt weak and he knelt down slowly and spoke with a trembling voice, "Young patriarch." Zhou Xian gazed at the old man, "Chop off his limbs and hang him in Chaoyue City." Zhou Qi spoke with a trembling voice, "Young patriarch. Please spare me." The old man hesitated for a moment and was about to beg for mercy. Meanwhile, Zhou Xian suddenly turned around, "Take them away, break their limbs and then hang them in Chaoyue City until they die." Also, when she spoke up to this point, she gazed at Zhou Qi, who knelt on the ground, and said, "Expel all of his branch members from the clan, and they're forbidden from using the clan's surname." As soon as she finished speaking, two black-robed old men suddenly appeared here, and they weren't even able to react before they were taken away. Zhou Xian turned around to gaze at Yi Xian. "Young Master Yi, I'm sorry for that." Yi Xian smiled, "I never expected you to actually be the young patriarch of the Zhou clan." After a moment of silence, Zhou Xian said, "Young Master Yi, are you interested in visiting my Zhou clan?" Yi Xian frowned slightly. "Go to the Zhou clan?" Zhou Xian nodded. "I would like to invite you to the Zhou clan as a guest." Yi Xian looked at Zhou Xian. "What?" Zhou Xian smiled faintly, "I don't have any other motives. I just want to bring young Master Yi on a trip, and then let my Zhou clan's people see some of the super monsters outside. Of course, in return I can find a life-profound realm expert for young Master Yi to spar with. If young Master Yi wants to go to the Emperor's tomb, I can accompany you." Life-profound realm. After a moment of silence, Yi Xian said, "Miss." Zhou Xian suddenly said, "You can call me Zhou Xian." Yi Xian smiled. "Miss Zhou Xian, you want me to go to your Zhou clan purely to let your Zhou clan see the monsters and geniuses outside?" Zhou Xian nodded. "Not entirely. My Zhou clan and young Master Yi had a misunderstanding. This time I also want to invite young Master Yi to my Zhou clan to apologize." Yi Xian thought about it and said, "All right. Life-profound realm." From the looks of it, only the Zhou clan had life-profound realm experts. If he wanted to spar with a life-profound realm expert, he could only find the Zhou clan. Zhou Xian nodded. "Young Master Yi, let's go." With that, she brought Yi Xian and disappeared. Chaoyue City. This was the main city of the Zhou clan, and it could be said to be the most prosperous city in the metaverse. Zhou Xian brought Yi Xian into the city. As if she thought of something, Zhou Xian suddenly said, "Pass down my order. Have all the young generation of the Zhou clan immediately come to the martial field. If they don't come in 15 minutes, I will break their legs." Behind Zhou Xian, an old man quietly retreated. Zhou Xian turned to look at Yi Xian. "Young Master Yi, can you give some pointers to the young generation of the Zhou clan later?" Yi Xian smiled. "Are you serious?" Zhou Xian nodded. Yi Xian blinked. "You want to test me?" Zhou Xian was also very frank. "Yes." Yi Xian laughed. "Then give some pointers. However, I'm afraid that it will hurt the geniuses of the Zhou clan." Zhou Xian immediately said, "Feel free to hurt them." Yi Xian said with a smile, "You said it." Zhou Xian nodded. Soon the two of them arrived at the martial field. When the two of them arrived, the entire martial field was already filled with thousands of people. All of them were the geniuses of the Zhou clan's young generation. When they saw Zhou Xian, everyone hurriedly bowed and said in unison, "Greetings, young clan head." Yi Xian glanced at Zhou Xian and he was slightly surprised. Looks like Zhou Xian's prestige in the hearts of the younger generation of the Zhou clan is very high. Zhou Xian glanced at them and said, "This is young Master Yi." Yilan died at his hands. Yi Xian. Everyone here gazed at Yi Xian with hostile expressions. Meanwhile, some of the older experts of the Zhou clan had appeared at the side. The person in the lead was the Zhou clan's patriarch Zhou Qing. All of them were looking at Yi Xian, and Zhou Qing and the others frowned when they saw Yi Xian, because they noticed that Yi Xian's cultivation was truly too low. Meanwhile, a man from the Zhou clan walked over to Yi Xian, and he gazed at Yi Xian. "Young Master Yi, can you provide me with some guidance?" Yi Xian gazed at Zhou Xian and the latter nodded slightly. Yi Xian withdrew his gaze and smiled. "Sure." The man slowly clenched his right fist, and then an extremely terrifying force suddenly condensed within it. In the next moment his right fist turned fiery red and then he charged forward and smashed his fist at Zhou Xian. It was pure strength. Wherever the punch passed, time and space were incinerated into nothingness. Meanwhile Zhou Xian suddenly flicked his thumb. Boom. The green profound sword slashed forward. Bang. An expanse of flames erupted, and then the man was blasted over 30 kilometers away. As soon as he stopped moving, his right arm had fallen off from his shoulder. He'd been defeated with a single strike of the sword. The surroundings were silent to the point a falling needle could be heard. Zhou Qing spoke solemnly. Did you notice anything? A black-clothed old man by his side spoke hoarsely. Extraordinary sword. Zhou Qing asked, where is he? The old man fell silent for a short moment before he said, I can't tell for now. Zhou Qing nodded slightly. Keep watching. Another man walked over to Zhou Xian from afar. This time the man was at the profound awareness realm. A true monstrous genius had appeared. The man gazed at Zhou Xian. Please provide me with your guidance. As he spoke he took a step forward. With this step the surrounding space actually became illusory. Time reversal. Zhou Xian immediately sensed the energy of time reversal. However, it was different from his own time reversal. The man raised his right hand slowly and then he swung it down. The space above Zhou Xian was suddenly torn apart, and then a palm swept down. Zhou Xian was just about to attack with his sword when he noticed that the energy of time reversal was interfering with him. Just like before, if he attacked, then he would forever be slower than the man. Zhou Xian didn't hesitate to execute life rend. As soon as he swung his sword, the palm was instantly obliterated, and the man instantly transformed into a white-haired old man. The expressions of everyone here changed when they witnessed this scene. Zhou Xian turned to look at Zhou Xian, and there was a trace of seriousness in his eyes for the first time. On the other side, Zhou Qing stared fixedly at Zhou Xian. How could this be possible? The black-clothed old man by his side had a trace of disbelief in his eyes as well. He's actually able to forcefully draw the time-lapse energy from the daylight world into the outside world. Moreover, he's even able to avoid the backlash. As he spoke, his gaze descended onto the azure sword in Zhou Xian's hand. It's this sword. This sword is actually able to withstand the time-lapse energy. It's truly unbelievable. Zhou Qing looked at the azure sword in Zhou Xian's hand as well, and there was a trace of shock in his eyes. In the distance, the man before Zhou Xian said with a trembling voice, this. Zhou Xian smiled. Time reversal? That's not time reversal at all. Young man, you still need to cultivate. The man gazed at Zhou Xian. Why are you able to draw out the time-lapse energy from within the daylight world? Zhou Xian frowned slightly. Is it very difficult? The man's face froze. Zhou Xian went on. This should be a very simple thing. I only used less than a day to complete my cultivation all those years ago. Is it very difficult for all of you? As he spoke, he even intentionally glanced at the geniuses of the Zhou clan. All of them were speechless. Meanwhile, the man suddenly gazed at the azure sword in Zhou Xian's hand. It's your sword. Zhou Xian glanced at the azure sword in his hand and then he said, Are you slightly dissatisfied? The man looked Zhou Xian in the eyes. Yes. Zhou Xian smiled. If you're disgruntled, then you can refine a divine artifact of your own. Because this sword was forged by me. The man frowned slightly. You forged it yourself? Zhou Xian nodded. Yes. The man glanced at Zhou Xian with slight disbelief. Zhou Xian smiled. I forged it for my own use. Does it count as using external objects? The man fell silent. Zhou Xian roared with laughter. Are there any other geniuses in the Zhou clan? If there aren't, then all of you can attack me together. I'll fight all of you by myself. Attack him together. The expressions of the geniuses of the Zhou clan became unsightly when they heard this. That was a blatant insult. Meanwhile, a woman suddenly walked over to Zhou Xian and she gazed at Zhou Xian. Can we fight without using our swords? Zhou Xian replied with a question. Can you fight without using your hands? The woman stared at Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian smiled. Miss, what are you talking about? I'm a swordsman and you're asking me to fight without using my swords. Don't you think that's rude? The woman spoke in a deep voice. Your sword is very powerful. You're bullying us with it. Even if we can't defeat you, we won't accept it. The geniuses of the Zhou clan nodded when they heard this. The woman suddenly said, Are you going to lose if you don't use this sword? Everyone looked at Yi Xian. How overbearing. Yi Xian smiled. I can choose not to use this sword, but we have to increase the wager. If the Zhou clan loses, you have to give me 500 star veins. If I lose, I'll also give you 500 star veins. 500 star veins. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. That wasn't a small number. The woman looked at Yi Xian. Do you have 500 star veins? Yi Xian waved the azure sword in his hand. Is this sword worth 500 star veins? The woman fell silent. At this moment she didn't have any confidence. No one could see through Yi Xian. His cultivation was very low, but his strength was very strange. Meanwhile, Yi Xian suddenly said, Miss, if you don't dare, I can add another condition. You don't have to fight alone. All of you can come at me together. All the geniuses of the Zhou clan can come at me together. If I lose, I'll give this sword to all of you. But I have to say this first. Once I get serious, I won't be able to control myself. At that time I'll bury all of you together. Don't take revenge on me. Everyone was speechless. Xiao Ta's voice suddenly resounded in Yi Xian's mind. Young master, are you sure you can fight a few thousand people? Yi Xian said in his heart, I can't. Xiao Ta was puzzled. Why are you saying that? Yi Xian said in his heart, let's show off first. Moreover, they won't be so shameless as to gang up on me. I can tell who's shameless and who's shameless. Xiao Ta was speechless. P.S. It's only midnight every day. I'm a bit embarrassed to ask for votes. Wait for me to work harder and save more manuscripts. Then everyone can vote. Thank you to all those who have voted and those who have tipped. Thank you for your support. Thank you again. Chapter 2095. The expressions of the geniuses and geniuses of the Zhou clan became extremely unsightly when they heard Yi Xian. Yi Xian was looking down on them. But it was exactly because of this that they felt fearful instead. Why did Yi Xian dare to act so arrogantly? Obviously it was because of his strength. But could Yi Xian really defeat all the geniuses and geniuses of the Zhou clan? Meanwhile, the woman before Yi Xian suddenly said, I'll fight you. She had no choice but to fight. If the Zhou clan didn't accept Yi Xian's provocation, then it would be a huge humiliation to the Zhou clan. Of course, it was just as Yi Xian had guessed. The Zhou clan really wouldn't gang up on him. If they did, then they would become a laughingstock even if they won. Yi Xian gazed at the woman before him and smiled. Are all of you really not going to fight me together? The woman stared at Yi Xian. Please provide me with your guidance, young Master Yi. As soon as she finished speaking, she took a step forward. As soon as she did, the area of space where Yi Xian resided instantly became illusory. At the same time, the illusory space started to burn. And then strands of destructive energy surged towards Yi Xian with the intention of shattering him into pieces. It was pure strength. The profound awareness realm. The woman didn't utilize the energy of the passage of time because the man from before had failed. She'd chosen to utilize pure strength against Yi Xian. In the distance, Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. The green profound sword in his hand had become an ordinary sword. After he closed his eyes, Yi Xian swiftly entered into a meditative state. At this moment, the sword in his hand started to tremble slightly. Moreover, his soul was highly concentrated at this moment. Meanwhile, Yi Xian lightly flicked his thumb. A sword howl shot into the sky. This time Yi Xian didn't execute Fate Rend and Future Rend. An instant of life and death. This sword was a moment of life and death in a calm and focused state. At the instant the sword was drawn, an enormous hole was torn open in the space in front of Yi Xian. In the next moment, a figure retreated explosively for over 100 kilometers. It was that woman. As soon as the woman stopped, a flying sword pierced through her forehead. Perfect connection. The surroundings suddenly fell silent. Yi Xian looked at the woman who was pinned by his sword in the distance and smiled. Miss, do you know that the sword is extraordinary because of the person? A truly powerful swordsman, even if it's a piece of wood, is still a peerless divine sword. The woman stared at Yi Xian for a long time before she said, I've lost. Yi Xian opened his palm. 500 star veins. As he spoke, he turned to look at Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian spoke softly. I never expected that young Master Yi would actually be able to condense his soul into a single point. We underestimated young Master Ye's attainments in the sword Dao. As she spoke, she tapped with her finger and a spatial ring floated over to Yi Xian. There were exactly 500 star veins within the spatial ring. Yi Xian glanced at Zhou Xian and he was quite shocked. The Zhou clan is really rich. They've produced 500 star veins just like that. Zhou Xian suddenly gazed at the geniuses of the Zhou clan. What do you think? Everyone fell silent. Zhou Xian continued, we've been living too comfortably in the past few years. Because it's been too comfortable, so many arrogantly think that our Zhou clan is number one under the heavens. From today onward, our Zhou clan will be reformed and reorganized. As she spoke, she turned to look at Zhou Qing. Father, I've formulated a reform and reorganization plan. You'll carry it out. Zhou Qing hesitated for a moment before he nodded. All right. Zhou Xian turned to look at Yi Xian. Young Master Yi, let's go. Yi Xian nodded. Zhou Xian brought Yi Xian to an unknown spacetime. She looked at Yi Xian. Young Master Yi wants to fight against a life-profound realm cultivator? Yi Xian nodded. Zhou Xian nodded slightly. Then young Master Yi can make your move. Yi Xian looked at Zhou Xian. A moment later he smiled. I never thought that you'd really be a life-profound realm cultivator. Zhou Xian chuckled. So young Master Yi has already guessed it. Yi Xian smiled. Miss Zhou Xian, I'll only use 2 strikes. Zhou Xian nodded. Come. The sword in Yi Xian's hand suddenly turned into the profound azure sword. In the next moment he pointed with his thumb and the sword flew out from the sheath. 1 strike to kill. With this strike, the river of stars in the field disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the distance, Zhou Xian stood motionlessly, allowing the endless power of dissipation to engulf her. A moment later the starry sky had turned into a deathly silent starry sky, but Zhou Xian was completely fine. Yi Xian looked at Zhou Xian and frowned. Why? Zhou Xian said, life-profound body. Yi Xian was slightly puzzled. Life-profound body? Zhou Xian nodded. It's a special type of physique, also known as a Dharma physique. It's impervious to all techniques, including the power of dissipation in the daytime. We can survive in the daytime. Yi Xian fell silent. Life-profound body. This surprised him. At this moment Zhou Xian said, make your second strike. Yi Xian lightly pushed with his thumb, and the profound azure sword trembled slightly but nothing happened. Zhou Xian frowned slightly and in the next moment she seemed to sense something. Her pupils suddenly constricted and her right hand suddenly moved to block. With this block, a stream of blood sprayed out, and her right hand was directly sent flying. However, she had already retreated tens of thousands of meters away and she was extremely far away from Yi Xian. Seeing this scene, Yi Xian was silent and no one knew what he was thinking. In the distance, Zhou Xian looked at Yi Xian and for the first time, there was a trace of seriousness in her eyes. The future. Yi Xian nodded. Zhou Xian was silent for a long time and then said, amazing. Yi Xian shook his head. It doesn't seem to work against you. Zhou Xian shook her head. You're wrong. The reason I was able to dodge it was because I was on guard. When I was fully on guard, I was able to sense the danger that was about to arrive. So, I was able to rely on my instinct to defend myself against your attack. But if I wasn't on guard, then I might not have been able to defend myself against this attack of yours. Yi Xian said in a low voice. So you're saying that my strike can threaten the life-profound realm? Zhou Xian nodded. Yes. Yi Xian smiled. As long as you can. Miss Zhou Xian, will you make a move? Zhou Xian shook her head. No. Yi Xian didn't understand. Why? Zhou Xian looked at Yi Xian. Because I will kill you. Yi Xian. Zhou Xian appeared in front of Yi Xian and looked at Yi Xian. You only have 1 chance to attack when facing a life-profound realm expert and you must attack first. Otherwise, once the life-profound realm expert attacks, you won't have the chance to attack. Because you don't have a life-profound body, it is too easy for a life-profound realm expert to kill you. Yi Xian frowned. Very easy? Zhou Xian nodded. Yi Xian was silent. Zhou Xian smiled. You don't believe me? Yi Xian smiled. I believe you. You have no reason to lie to me. Zhou Xian nodded. To the Emperor Tomb? Yi Xian smiled. Yes. The two got up and headed to the Emperor Tomb. On the way, Yi Xian suddenly asked, Miss Zhou Xian, how do I cultivate this life-profound body? Zhou Xian said, for others, it is almost impossible, but for you it should be very easy. Yi Xian didn't understand. Why? Zhou Xian said, to cultivate the life-profound body, there are 2 basic requirements. First, there are enough resources, at least 1,000 star veins. Second, there is a need to fuse with a special space-time. I have observed your sword before. Your sword seems to have a restraining effect on space-time. Yi Xian said with a smile. Indeed. As he spoke, he looked at Zhou Xian. Miss Zhou Xian, can you teach me? Zhou Xian asked. The person behind you is very strong, is she not willing to teach you? Yi Xian shook his head. She is a bit far away from me, I can't contact her. Zhou Xian was silent for a moment and said, Sure. As she spoke, she pointed with her finger, and a white light directly entered between Yi Xian's eyebrows. Boom. Yi Xian's body trembled slightly, and a lot of information surged into his mind. The cultivation method of the life-profound body. Yi Xian looked at Zhou Xian. Miss Zhou Xian, you are giving it to me so easily? Zhou Xian said, You are in the same circle as us. Yi Xian was slightly stunned and then he said, What do you mean? Zhou Xian glanced at Yi Xian. It is like borrowing money. A person with strength can easily find someone in the same circle to borrow money from, and he is also willing to lend money to someone in the same circle as him. Why? Because both sides know that the other party can afford it. On the contrary, if a slightly weaker person were to borrow money from a rich person, he would most likely not be able to borrow money because in the other party's eyes, it is like a tiger borrowing a pig, there is no return. Yi Xian, Zhou Xian continued, this cultivation method is very precious to others, but it is not precious to you because even if I don't give it to you, you will definitely be able to obtain it in the future. Since that is the case, why don't I give it to you, sell you a favor? Yi Xian said with a smile. Is this the so-called circle culture? Zhou Xian nodded. If you are not strong enough, you cannot play in the same circle. Yi Xian was silent. At this time Xiaota suddenly said, Young master, I know why master does not bring you along. Because you are not strong enough, you are not in the same circle as master. Yi Xian's face was full of black lines. If you do not know how to speak, then don't speak. Xiaota. At this time Yi Xian suddenly stopped. He directly called out his lover. Yi Xian looked at his lover in front of him and said with a smile, Miss Lover, it is time for us to part. Lover looked at Yi Xian. How about I follow you? Yi Xian, Lover continued, I do not want to follow you because of your Xiaota, mainly because I think you are a good person. I want to be friends with you. Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. Miss Lover, your goal now should be life profound, right? Lover nodded. Yi Xian hesitated, then said, Miss Lover, it is indeed time for us to part. Strictly speaking, Lover and him, they are not even friends. He has no obligation to let her continue to cultivate in Xiaota. At this moment, Lover is already Yi Xian. Of course, this is because she is cultivating in Xiaota. Moreover, she has used nearly a dozen of his star veins. Lover was silent for a long time, then said, Take care. After saying that, she turned around and left. At this time, Yi Xian suddenly bent his finger and a white light entered Lover's eyebrows. It is the cultivation method of life-profound body. Lover was slightly stunned, then said, You? Yi Xian smiled. You solved the spiritual energy problem yourself. Lover was silent for a long time, then said, Thank you. After saying that, she turned around and disappeared at the end of the starry sky. Yi Xian turned to look at Zhou Xian. Miss Zhou Xian, let's go. Zhou Xian nodded. Lover disappeared into the distance. On the way, Yi Xian suddenly became curious. Miss Zhou Xian, the Xianxia kingdom was destroyed by that swordsman? Zhou Xian said, although he did not directly destroy it, it has a lot to do with him because he killed a group of the top experts of Xianxia. Brother. Yi Xian looked into the distance, a little curious. Brother usually only sparred, he does not kill. Could it be that Xianxia kingdom made brother famous? Chapter 2096. Emperor Tomb. Not long after, Yi Xian and Zhou Xian arrived at the Emperor Tomb. The Emperor's tomb was located in a mountain range. As soon as the two of them arrived at the mountain range, Yi Xian felt a mysterious force. Beside Yi Xian, Zhou Xian whispered, The aura of an emperor. Who would have thought that the aura of an emperor would still be so thick after so many years? Yi Xian looked at Zhou Xian. Has your Zhou clan never gone in? Zhou Xian shook her head. We can't. Yi Xian was puzzled. Why? Zhou Xian said after a moment of silence. First, the god execution formation left behind by the Emperor of Xianxia is extremely powerful. Even a life-profound realm expert would find it hard to break it. Second, there is still the sword chi left behind by that swordsman. My Zhou clan has slowly devoured the formation, but the sword chi left behind. At this point her expression suddenly turned grave. Back then my Zhou clan also wanted to destroy these sword auras. However, we did not succeed in the end. Not only did we fail, we even lost a life-profound stage expert. Xian said in a low voice, "You want me to deal with the sword qi?" Zhou Xian nodded. Xian nodded. "Then let's go in." Zhou Xian looked at Xian. "Do you really know that swordsman? If you don't, it's not too late to leave. Otherwise we won't be able to survive." Xian said with a smile, "Let's go." As he spoke he walked into the distance. Zhou Xian followed after a moment of silence. Not long after, Xian saw a group of stone statues scattered in the distance. Apart from them there were also a few statues of armored men. Xian suddenly asked, "Miss Zhou Xian, was the Xianxia kingdom very strong back then?" Zhou Xian nodded, "Very strong." Xian asked again, "Is there anyone stronger than Life Profound Realm?" Zhou Xian shook her head, "I don't know." Xian frowned, "You don't know?" Zhou Xian nodded. "We don't know much about the Xianxia kingdom either." Xian was about to speak when Zhou Xian suddenly pointed into the distance. "Look over there." Xian looked into the distance. Not far from them was a plain. On the plain there were dozens of tombs. Among them there was a very large tomb. It was pure gold in color and looked very luxurious. Zhou Xian looked at the golden tomb and said softly, "That should be the tomb of the last emperor of Xianxia kingdom, Di Ming." Xian looked around and frowned. A sense of unease rose in his heart. Zhou Xian suddenly said, "There's a situation." Xian looked at Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian stared at the golden tomb. "There's someone inside. Alive." Someone was there. Xian was about to speak when a strand of sword qi suddenly drifted down from the sky like a feather. Zhou Xian's expression changed drastically. It was the swordsman's sword qi. Meanwhile Xian opened his palm, and the sword qi floated slowly into his hand. The sword qi has a spirit. Not to mention the sword qi of the three swords, even his own sword qi had a spirit of its own. Xian looked at the sword qi in his hand and smiled, "Where's Big Brother?" The sword qi trembled slightly as if it was responding to him. Xian fell silent. The sword qi meant that Big Brother was very, very far away. After a short while Xian collected his thoughts and looked at the sword qi in his hand. He smiled, "Come with me." The sword qi trembled slightly and seemed very happy. Xian kept the sword qi. Meanwhile the group of golden tombs in the distance suddenly trembled slightly. Zhou Xian, who stood by Xian's side, said solemnly, "Watch out." Xian looked at the golden tomb. At this moment, the golden tomb suddenly split open and a middle-aged man in a dragon robe slowly floated out. Xian whispered, "Di Ming." Xian looked at Di Ming and was on his guard. Di Ming suddenly opened his eyes and looked at Xian. "Who are you?" to the swordsman. Xian said, "He's my sworn brother." Zhou Xian turned to look at him. "Big Brother? Sworn brothers?" Xian nodded. Zhou Xian had a strange expression on his face. In the distance Di Ming stared at Xian. "He's so strong but you're so weak. How could he be your sworn brother?" Xian was silent. Could this digger speak? No wonder he was beaten up so badly by Big Brother. To survive in this world, it was very important to speak and conduct oneself. Di Ming suddenly asked, "Where is he now?" Xian looked at Di Ming. "What's wrong?" Di Ming suddenly smiled. "What's wrong?" Xian said, "You want revenge?" Di Ming flicked his sleeves and smiled. "Can't I?" Xian was silent for a moment. "Who gave you the courage?" Di Ming chuckled. "Why? Do you think your big brother is strong?" Xian frowned. "If he wasn't, would the Xianxia kingdom still be like this?" Di Ming paused and then smiled. "What do you think is wrong with the Xianxia kingdom?" Xian frowned. Zhou Xian suddenly said, "Something's wrong." As soon as she finished speaking, the tombs in the distance began to tremble. In the next moment the tombs split open and experts walked out. When these people walked out, Xian and Zhou Xian's expressions changed. All of them were Life Profound Realm experts. There were a total of 49 Life Profound Realm experts. So many Life Profound Realm experts? Not only Xian, but even Zhou Xian's expression changed. Di Ming looked at Xian and smiled. "What a joke. You still think that the Xianxia kingdom was destroyed by swordsmen? Who gave you the courage to think so?" Xian looked at Di Ming and said nothing. Zhou Xian suddenly said, Sir, if it wasn't because of swordsmen, then why did the Xianxia kingdom? Speaking of this, her pupils suddenly shrank. Was the Xianxia kingdom destroyed? No. Not only was it not destroyed, but it became even stronger. According to the ancient records, the Xianxia kingdom did not have so many life-profound realm experts. But now the Xianxia kingdom had 49 life-profound realm experts. Including Di Ming, there were a total of 50 life-profound realm experts. Needless to say, this lineup was extremely terrifying. Di Ming suddenly said, You seem to be confused. Zhou Xian nodded. Yes, we are. As far as we know, the Xianxia kingdom did not have so many life-profound realm experts. Di Ming smiled. Yes, we did not. As he spoke, he glanced at the people behind him and smiled. We have given up on the majority of our countrymen and gathered our resources together. Then we will provide them to the most outstanding people in Xianxia. Do you understand? Zhou Xian frowned. Abandoned most of the people? Di Ming nodded. Yes. Zhou Xian was silent. He was shocked. What did abandoning most of the people mean? It meant that Di Ming and his people plundered all the resources, abandoned the people of the Xianxia kingdom, and concentrated all the resources on the most talented people of the Xianxia kingdom. What was the result? After all these years, all the ordinary cultivators of the Xianxia kingdom died, while the people behind Di Ming advanced and reached the life-profound realm. Ruthless. Zhou Xian looked at Di Ming and his people and said nothing. At that moment, Xian suddenly asked, What's going on between you and my big brother? Di Ming looked at Xian and smiled. When he came to the Xianxia kingdom, he wanted to challenge me. But I was in seclusion at that time, so I asked him to wait for me. But he seemed to have something else to do, so he left me a wisp of sword chi and left. Then he told me that if I came out of seclusion and destroyed his sword chi, he would show up. Today, just as I came out of seclusion and was about to destroy his sword chi, you came. Xian was speechless. Damn. What a coincidence. Di Ming looked at Xian and smiled. Since you said you are his sworn brother, I will fight with you first. It makes no difference whether I fight with him or you. Xian was speechless. Damn, the difference is too big. Di Ming was about to attack when Xian suddenly said, Didn't he leave you a wisp of sword chi? You can fight with his sword chi first. Then he opened his palm and his brother's sword chi appeared in his hand. Di Ming looked at Xian. You want me to fight with a wisp of sword chi? Xian nodded. Di Ming narrowed his eyes. Are you insulting me? Xian was speechless. Di Ming said again, Or do you think you are not as good as a wisp of sword chi? Xian was speechless. Damn it. Big brother, why didn't you do things more thoroughly? You should have beaten this guy into submission back then. At this time Di Ming smiled and said, Let's spar. Xian thought for a while and said, You are my brother's opponent. If I fight with you, I am afraid he will be unhappy. You? Di Ming frowned. Why are you talking so much? Since you are his sworn brother, what difference does it make if I fight with him or you? Xian's face was as black as a sheet. Small Tower suddenly sighed in a low voice. This difference is really big. Xian was speechless. At this moment, Di Ming suddenly opened his right hand. In an instant, the spacetime in front of Xian suddenly overlapped. At least hundreds of thousands of spacetime overlapped. In an instant, Xian felt a terrifying spacetime pressure. Zhou Xian's eyes narrowed slightly with an additional hint of seriousness. His opponent was an expert above the life mystic realm. Suddenly, the green profound sword in Xian's hand flew out. Swoosh. As soon as the green profound sword appeared, the overlapping spacetime was destroyed. Di Ming was slightly stunned by this scene and then he smiled. You're not that weak after all. Xian smiled. Do you really want to fight with me? Di Ming nodded. Of course. You can call your brother here. Xian thought for a while and said, Then I will call my brother here. Di Ming was speechless. Xian opened his palm, and the sword chi of his brother floated to Di Ming. It's easy to find him. Just sense this sword chi. I believe you can sense him. Di Ming looked at the sword chi in front of him. After a moment of silence, he looked at Xian. Forget it. It's too troublesome. I will fight with you. Go ahead. Xian was speechless. Xiao Ta suddenly said, Young master, what should we do? Xian thought for a while and then walked to Di Ming. He handed the green profound sword to Di Ming. I will give you another opponent. Hold this sword and sense it. Someone will find you. Di Ming looked at the green profound sword and then at Yi Xian. I will not. Yi Xian was speechless. Xiao Ta suddenly said, oh no. This guy doesn't play by the rules. P.S. I'm going out too. Come back and write more. A wave in a wave, a wave in a wave, I'm a wave, a wave. Chapter 2097. Yi Xian suddenly came to an understanding when he heard Di Ming. They didn't want to spar with Big Brother at all, and their target was actually Yi Xian. Yi Xian sheathed his sword and smiled. I don't quite understand. This should be the first time we've met, so why are they targeting me? He waved the sword in his hand. Is it because of this sword? Di Ming smiled. Just one of the reasons. Yi Xian frowned slightly. What else? Di Ming gazed at Yi Xian. And that strand of sword energy you just withdrew. Big Brother's sword energy. Yi Xian was slightly stunned and then he smiled. So that's why. As he spoke he turned to look at Zhou Xian. Miss Zhou Xian, I'm their target. You should leave first. Zhou Xian thought for a moment and shook her head. That strand of sword energy isn't enough to kill him because he won't resist it on his own. Yi Xian smiled. I know. Since he dares to target me, then he's definitely confident in his ability to deal with my Big Brother's sword energy. Miss Zhou Xian, you should leave. Zhou Xian fell silent for a moment, and then she walked slowly over to Yi Xian and looked Yi Xian in the eyes. Are we friends? Yi Xian hesitated for a moment and said, no, I don't think so. Zhou Xian turned around and left without any hesitation. Yi Xian hurriedly said, yes. In my heart Miss Zhou Xian has been a friend for a long time. Zhou Xian stopped and turned to look at Yi Xian. You perform first and I'll take you away if you're no match for them. Yi Xian spoke in a low voice. Miss Zhou Xian, you have to think this through. They have 49 life realm experts. Zhou Xian thought for a moment and said, then you fight first and I'll decide based on the situation. Yi Xian's face darkened when he heard that. Is that even possible? Meanwhile, Di Ming spoke abruptly. Let's not waste any more time. All right. Yi Xian smiled. All right. As soon as he finished speaking, his palms suddenly opened up, and a strand of sword chi suddenly slashed out. It was Big Brother's sword chi. As soon as the sword energy appeared, the expressions of Di Ming and the others changed drastically. They were already the strongest experts in this world. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be anything that could make them feel threatened. However, along with the appearance of this strand of sword chi, the expressions of all the profound life stage experts changed drastically. That included Di Ming. At this moment, his expression was extremely solemn. As soon as Yi Xian released the sword chi, Di Ming suddenly opened his right hand, and a little wooden man appeared in his hand. The next moment, the little wooden man transformed into a warrior over 100 feet tall, clad in black armor. The armored warrior held a giant blade in his hand. The armored warrior suddenly took a step forward. When this step landed, the heavens and earth shattered. The entire emperor's tomb began to crumble. At this time, the armored warrior held his sword with both hands and slashed down. The heavens and the earth split apart as soon as this attack descended. In an instant, the space in an area of a few million kilometers had been transformed into a huge net. Yi Xian's expression became extremely solemn when he witnessed this scene. Damn it. What's that? Why does it feel even stronger than a profound life realm expert? Even Yi Xian felt like his Big Brother's sword chi would probably be slashed into pieces when that attack descended. However, the blade had just come into contact with the sword chi when it instantly split apart, and then the sword chi pierced through the giant's chest. Bang! The giant's figure shook violently, and then it transformed into countless pieces that exploded apart. It was gone. But that strand of sword chi was still there. It shot straight towards Di Ming in the distance. Di Ming's eyes narrowed slightly. Formation. Formation. He'd just finished speaking when a dragon throne suddenly appeared in front of him, and then an enormous golden dragon swept out from within it. The golden dragon roared as it collided with the sword chi. When it approached the strand of sword chi, the enormous golden dragon directly opened its enormous mouth and swallowed the strand of sword chi. A moment later. Bang! The enormous golden dragon shook violently, and then it let out a sorrowful wail before it shattered into countless pieces. The sword chi shot forward and arrived in front of Di Ming. Di Ming pressed his fingers together and pointed at the sword chi. Bang! Di Ming's body trembled, and then he vanished at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. However, the sword chi vanished along with him. After all, it was just a strand of sword chi that he'd left behind casually, and it was a consumable. If he'd left a strand of sword chi behind on purpose, it would definitely not have vanished. Di Ming's body became more and more illusory, but his expression was extremely calm. Yi Xian looked at Di Ming with a slight frown, and he felt that something was off. It didn't take long for Di Ming to vanish completely. Suddenly, a voice came from the side. I never expected that the sword chi he left behind would be so strong. How surprising. Yi Xian turned his head to look. Not far away, a man was walking towards him slowly. It was Di Ming. Yi Xian's eyes narrowed slightly. A clone. Di Ming nodded slightly. That was my clone. A clone. Di Ming looked at Yi Xian. Your only trump card is gone. Just then Yi Xian suddenly opened his palm, and another strand of sword chi appeared in his palm. It was the green-robed man's sword chi. Di Ming's expression froze when he saw this strand of sword chi. Yi Xian looked at Di Ming and smiled. I still have more. The one just now was my big brother's and this one is my father's. Di Ming looked at Yi Xian and his face darkened. Damn it. Had he run into a rich second generation? Yi Xian looked at Di Ming. Is this also a clone? Di Ming was silent. He'd sacrificed too much to use up the swordsman's sword chi. Both the giant and the throne were the most precious treasures of the Xianxia kingdom. Especially that avatar of his. He had cultivated for nearly 10 million years before he could cultivate it. However, it was all destroyed by that strand of sword chi. And now Yi Xian still had a strand of sword chi in his hand. Di Ming's face darkened. Yi Xian smiled. Do you still want to fight? Di Ming looked at Yi Xian. No. Yi Xian smiled. Then I'm leaving. Di Ming nodded. All right. Yi Xian turned to Zhou Xian. Let's go. Zhou Xian nodded. The two turned and left. Di Ming suddenly said, Kid, do you want to work with me? Yi Xian turned to Di Ming. Work with you? Di Ming nodded. I know of an ancient secret land and there's a divine item called the Book of the Universe. Are you interested? Yi Xian frowned. The Book of the Universe? At this moment, Zhou Xian suddenly said in a deep voice, Book of the Universe. Yi Xian turned to Zhou Xian. What's that? Zhou Xian was silent for a moment, then said, The Book of Origin of Martial Arts in Our Metaverse. A legendary existence. Then she looked at Di Ming. You're already above the life mystic realm. Why do you care about the Book of the Universe? Di Ming shook his head. It's not that I'm not above the life mystic realm. I've just reached the limit of the life mystic realm. If I want to go further, I have to find the Book of the Universe. Yi Xian suddenly said, Why are you so obsessed with the realm? Di Ming and Zhou Xian looked at Yi Xian, and Yi Xian said seriously, Don't you know that having no realm is the highest realm? Di Ming stared at Yi Xian. What are you trying to say? Yi Xian said seriously, The real experts have no realm. Look at me, I have no realm. Di Ming frowned. Are you strong? Yi Xian, Di Ming added. And it's not that you have no realm, it's just that your realm is too low. At such a young age you don't learn the right things. You only know how to bluff people. You would have died 100 times if you didn't have someone to back you up. Yi Xian said calmly, You and I are not from the same generation. Do you dare to lower your realm to fight me? Di Ming asked. My strength came from my own cultivation. Why should I lower my realm to fight you? Why should I lower my realm to fight you? Then he looked at Yi Xian and said, I'll say it again. Without your father and brother you are nothing. Then he pointed at Zhou Xian, and her, why is she with you? Why does she want to go through thick and thin with you? Do you think she likes you? No, she likes the person behind you. She wants to build a good relationship with you. But you think she likes you. If you don't have someone to back you up, she won't even look you in the eye. Zhou Xian suddenly said, You're wrong. Di Ming looked at Zhou Xian. What, you want to be hypocritical too? Zhou Xian shook his head. I feel that what you said is wrong. Firstly, have you been relying on your own cultivation up till now? If I'm not wrong, you were born into the royal family and had access to countless resources in the Xianxia kingdom, right? Di Ming looked at Zhou Xian and said nothing. Zhou Xian continued, Me too. I'm talented. But if I wasn't born into the Zhou clan, I wouldn't be where I am today. You and I are both protected by our ancestors. What right do you have to say that he relies on his father and brother? Then she shook her head and said, And one more thing, you and he are not from the same generation. If you were his age, I believe you wouldn't be as strong as he is. You are an old monster who has lived for countless years. Comparing yourself to a young man is unfair. Not only is it unfair, but it's also shameful. Anyone with a shameful heart would not do such a thing. Diming narrowed his eyes and looked unfriendly. Zhou Xian ignored Diming and said, "If you're really strong, if you really have the guts, you could go to his brother or his father. But you don't dare. You can't even block a strand of sword chi left by his brother. That means you are not at the same level as his brother and his father. That's why you want to work with him. Why? Because you don't dare to force yourself on him. But you're not satisfied either. Because you think that if he didn't have his brother and father, you could kill him with one slap. Unfortunately, he has it." Then she looked at Yi Xian. "You have an invincible sister, right?" Yi Xian nodded honestly, "But I've never relied on them. I've relied on my own hard work to get where I am today." Zhou Xian walked to Yi Xian and said softly, "If you keep acting like this, I won't be able to cover up for you. I've never said anything that goes against my heart and my life. Don't make things difficult for me." Yi Xian was speechless. Chapter 2098. Diming stared at Yi Xian and Zhou Xian with a gloomy face. He was not happy with Yi Xian, but after witnessing the power of the sword chi, he did not dare to attack Yi Xian again. A single sword chi was already so powerful. How powerful would the real sword chi be? It was not something that Diming could fight against. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly said, "Miss Xian, let's go." Miss Xian. Because of what had just happened, the two of them had become closer. Zhou Xian only threw Yi Xian a glance and did not say anything about the way he addressed him. They left. Diming suddenly asked, "Don't you want the Book of the Universe?" Yi Xian turned to Diming and said, Swordsman, a sword is enough. Why would I want the Book of the Universe? All external objects are obstacles to me." "You don't want anything?" Diming stared at Yi Xian. "Then why do you use the sword in your hand?" Yi Xian looked at the green profound sword in his hand and smiled. "Do you think I use it because it is a legendary sword? No, I use it because I, Qing'er, made it. I don't care about its special power, I care about Qing'er's friendship with me." As he spoke, he turned to look at Zhou Xian. "Do you believe what I said?" Zhou Xian blinked. "Do I? One question, two answers." Yi Xian nodded. "Yes, I do." Zhou Xian nodded. "I believe you. You are a genius, a swordsman, and you come from a prestigious family. Why would you lie?" Yi Xian approached Zhou Xian and asked softly, "Are you lying?" Zhou Xian blinked. His eyes were big and bright. "It's okay. I think I am getting used to it." Yi Xian was speechless. Inside Yi Xian's body, Xiao Ta sighed. Young master finally met someone who was willing to act cool with him. Diming suddenly said, "Young man, I hope you don't act on impulse. If you don't know how precious the Book of the Universe is, you can ask the lady beside you." Yi Xian turned to Diming and asked, "Who created the Book of the Universe?" Diming frowned. "Why do you ask?" Yi Xian smiled and said, "Can the person who created the Book of the Universe take a blow from my big brother?" Diming narrowed his eyes and said nothing. Yi Xian didn't say anything else. He turned around and left with Zhou Xian. Diming didn't say anything else. At this moment, an old man appeared next to Diming. The old man looked at Yi Xian and Diming as they left and said in a low voice, "We can enter that universe without him." Diming shook his head. "The price is too high." Then he looked at Yi Xian and said softly, "The sword in his hand can restrain space-time. With that sword we can enter without sacrificing anyone." The old man said in a deep voice, "This young man is like an immortal. I've interacted with him a lot. I'm afraid you'll die of anger." Diming said after a moment of silence, "He will compromise. The Book of the Universe." He had sacrificed the people of Xianxia because they had found the Book of the Universe. However, Xianxia was not strong enough to enter the universe at that time. In the end, they had decided to sacrifice the people of Xianxia and focus all their resources on them. They had used all their strength to improve these 49 people. And their goal was Ian spacetime. When he woke up just now, he was surprised to find that the sword in Yi Xian's hand could restrain spacetime. Could this sword break through the power of spacetime in the universe? In his opinion, there was a good chance that it could, because the person behind Yi Xian was very strong. On the other side, Yi Xian and Zhou Xian returned to the Zhou clan. Once there, Yi Xian went into seclusion. Yi Xian sat on the ground with his eyes closed. He sat like this for a few days. Over the past few days he didn't cultivate. He just sat there. Xiaota could not help but ask, "Young master, are you upset?" Xian shook his head. Xiaota hesitated and said, "Young master, don't worry about what Diming said. We can go back to the fifth dimension or the Green City to gain some confidence." Xian was speechless. Xiaota said, "It's normal that you can't handle it." Xian said in a low voice, "Lil Tower, I think Diming is right about one thing. To be honest, without Dad and Qing I am nothing." As he spoke he laughed bitterly. "All along the way I've always said that I don't want to rely too much on Qing and Father. However, the truth is that it's Qing and Father that help me deal with my problems most of the time." Lil Pagoda said, "There are also some good karma. Those good karma are actually Master and Big Sister Tianming. For example, Big Sister Zhou Xian. The reason why she is helping Young Master is probably because she likes the people behind Young Master, and not because of Young Master yourself." Xian nodded. "That should be it," Xiaota said. "Be confident and remove this should." Xian, Xiaota continued, "There is another problem. Young Master, your current strength is built on the green profound sword. Without it your strength will decrease by at least half. There's also me. Without me you would be able to cultivate normally." When it spoke up to here, the tiny pagoda hesitated for a moment before it said, "Young Master, I suddenly noticed that you're really useless without the help of Master and Big Sister Tianming." "Xian," Xiaota suddenly said, "Not completely. After all, Young Master, you are quite thick-skinned." Xian shook his head and smiled. He was not angry, because what Xiaota said was true. Xian looked at the green profound sword in his hand. Without the green profound sword he would not be able to use life/ and future/. If he could not use life/ and future/, he would be as weak as an ant in front of a life profound realm expert. Without Xiaota, even with the green profound sword he would not be able to cultivate so fast. Xian suddenly laughed at himself. "I am a swordsman. I created life/ and future/, but without the green profound sword I cannot use these two sword skills. How ironic is this? Is the sword strong? Is the person strong? Obviously it is the sword strong. Because if the green profound sword was given to Zhou Xian she could also do it easily." Xiaota suddenly said, "Young Master, don't think too much. They are all old monsters who have cultivated for countless years. You can't compare to them, it is also." Xian shook his head. "All these years I have been using this excuse to comfort myself. Then I can rely on my Qing and my dad without any qualms." Xiaota said in a deep voice, "Young Master, your way of thinking is not wrong. However, there is one thing that you have not considered. I feel that if you do not understand this problem, you will always be a little brother." Xian was curious. "What problem?" Xiaota said, "In the previous universe, which is the 6 realms, are you an invincible existence there?" Xian nodded his head. Xiaota said, "But after you come to this universe, you become a little brother. Just like a child, he studies very well in the village and is the number 1. However, when he leaves the village and goes to the town he might not be the number 1 but the top 10. When he leaves the town and goes to the city he might not even be in the top 10. When he leaves the city and goes to the most prosperous city in the country he might not even be an ordinary person. In the whole world he might not even be an ordinary person." Xian was silent. Xiaota said, "What is the biggest problem now? It is that you will never know what the combat strength of the next universe belongs to. And this *T realm, this realm has collapsed. You will always be a little brother if you struggle within this rule. Why? Because if you're invincible in this universe, the moment you reach the next universe, you'll realize that the previous realms have all been overturned, and there's a new realm or something. Then in front of this new realm, you'll become the younger brother of the younger brother." Xian said in a deep voice, "Why would such a situation happen?" Small Tower continued to say, "I've studied it for so long, and I feel that there are only 2 possibilities for this kind of situation to occur. The first is that your pace is too fast, and before you have completely stabilized, you have continued to advance to the next universe. This is like studying in the Milky Way galaxy. Before you have finished your first year we have gone straight to the 3rd year. This kind of leap will cause our current situation. As long as we change worlds we will become little brothers." Xian said, "What about the other possibility?" Xiaota was silent for a moment then said, "The other possibility is that the person who created the realms and universes is messing around. He might not even know how many realms and universes he has created." Xian, Xiaota said, Of course, no matter what the problem is, the biggest problem is still you. You have indeed worked very hard, but you lack the sense of crisis that Master has. The biggest difference between you and Master is that if he doesn't work hard, he will really die. But you are different. If you don't work hard, you can choose to rely on your sister. Moreover, with Sister Qing around, you will never really be in a desperate situation. So, deep in your heart you will have nothing to fear. At this point it paused, then said, Sister Tianming has almost spoiled you rotten. After a long silence, Yi Xian smiled and said, I understand. As he spoke, he looked at the green profound sword in his hand and said softly, I once fused with Little Soul. She is me and I am her. She can bear the power of the passage of time in the daytime, and there's also the power of time reversal in yours, little tower. If that's the case, why can't I? Xiaota said in a deep voice, Young Master, don't be reckless. Little Soul has been modified by Sister Tianming, but you haven't. Yi Xian said with a smile, let's try. After saying that, he left Xiaota and went outside. He directly entered the daytime space-time. This time he didn't use the Qingxian sword. As soon as he entered the daytime space-time, his whole body aged at a speed visible to the naked eye. Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes and opened his palms. In the next moment, a mysterious power suddenly appeared around him. The power of time reversal in Xiaota's body. One in reverse, one in reverse. This time he didn't choose to use the Qingxian sword. He let the two completely different powers wreak havoc in his body. Different from before, he didn't simply use the two powers. Instead, he carefully felt the two powers and experienced them personally. Then he found a balance between the two powers. In the past he used the two powers, but this time he wanted to control the two powers. And this time he didn't use the Qingxian sword. It was not an easy task to achieve this. Yi Xian's face became older and older. Not long after, his hair was white and his breath was gossamer. Xiaota said in horror, Young Master, don't risk your life. Use the Qingxian sword. We don't work hard anymore. There's nothing wrong with being a second generation. Don't scare me. Yi Xian ignored Xiaota quickly said, Little Soul, help Young Master. Little Soul said with a trembling voice, I'm just a sword. Shit. Xiaota. Chapter 2099. In the field, Yi Xian was indescribably old. Not only that, his breath was almost gone. His lifespan was gone. He was really on his last breath. Even so, he didn't choose to use the green profound sword. Had he ever risked his life in this life? Yes. In the city of Qing, he had risked his life many times. But after leaving the city of Qing, he had risked his life less and less. As Xiaota had said, he had been spoiled by Qing. He was getting more and more flashy. As Di Ming had said, without Qing'er and his father, what was he? What was he? After asking himself, the result was that it was nothing at all. What was the saddest thing about a man? Looking back at the past, he had accomplished nothing. Suddenly he was tired of it. He was tired of this kind of life without passion and fighting. If he didn't want to work hard, if he didn't want to fight, why didn't he just follow Qing'er? If he followed Qing'er, wouldn't he be able to show off as much as he wanted? And his father? All this time his father had never cared about him. Was he really heartless and cold-blooded? No. His father knew very well that Qing'er had spoiled him too much. If Qing'er had spoiled him too, wouldn't he have gone straight to heaven? If he had a son, would he want him to be like him? Would he? Of course not. Looking back, other than the time in the city of Qing, what did he look like? Disgust. He was really disgusted with his previous self. That was why he had chosen to risk his life. Just then the corner of Yi Xian's mouth lifted. He was smiling. The next moment his old face returned to its youthful state. Reverse. At this critical moment he had finally balanced the two powers. Soon Yi Xian had returned to normal. Yi Xian looked around, his eyes full of vicissitudes. It had only been a short time, but it had made him feel like he had been reborn. What was worth mentioning was that he had used the two powers to reconstruct his body. Previously, Zhou Xian taught him how to cultivate the life-profound body, and he used the method Zhou Xian taught him to cultivate the life-profound body. However, he used the power of time reversal to cultivate the life-profound body. It could be said that his life-profound body was completely different from others. Apart from that, he had complete control over these two powers because he had found a balance between them. At this time, Xiaota suddenly said, Young lord, you succeeded? Yi Xian nodded. After a moment of silence, Xiaota said, Young master, you seem to have changed. Yi Xian smiled. It's time for me to grow up. At this moment, a strand of sword chi suddenly floated out of his body, and it slowly floated to a spot not far away from Yi Xian. It was the azure-robed man's sword chi. Meanwhile, roaring laughter suddenly resounded from within that strand of sword chi. Stinking kid, you've finally made your father look at you in a different light. It was the voice of the azure-robed man. Yi Xian smiled. Dad, I will work hard. This time I'm serious. The azure-robed man laughed. All right. Dad is happy today, so you can make a request. Yi Xian thought for a moment and said, take good care of my mother. After a moment of silence, the azure-robed man said softly, all right. Yi Xian said again, tell my mother that she doesn't need to pave the way for me. Her son will walk the road from now on. The azure-robed man was helpless. I can't do that. She's very persistent. However, don't worry about it. Let her do it. As long as she's happy. Yi Xian nodded slightly. Then I have no other requests. The azure-robed man laughed. This isn't like you. It's rare for Dad to be happy today. You can make a request. As long as you mention it, Dad will agree. Yi Xian shook his head. There's really no need. The azure-robed man was about to speak when Xiao Ta suddenly said, Master, if young lord doesn't want to make a request, can I? If I make a request, it's the same as him making a request. The azure-robed man immediately said, get lost. Xiao Ta. At this moment the azure-robed man said again, little fellow, you've really grown up. Dad is very pleased. Dad will wait for you at the end of this road. Yi Xian nodded. All right. The strand of sword energy suddenly vanished slowly. Yi Xian knew that Dad had left. After a moment of silence, Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. As if he thought of something, he took out the green profound sword and lightly slashed his body. A wound appeared on his chest. However, in the blink of an eye, the wound vanished. Mysterious life body? No. He preferred to call it the reverse compliance body. Time recovery. Under normal circumstances, it would take at least 15 minutes to recover with the immortal bloodline. However, he could speed up time. Simply put, he had increased the recovery ability of the immortal bloodline by at least a few thousand times. It wasn't exaggerated at all. As long as he didn't want to die now, it would be very difficult for him to die. Apart from that, he could use slash of life and slash of future even without the green profound sword. At this moment, Zhou Xian suddenly appeared in front of Yi Xian. She sized up Yi Xian and asked, you've broken through? Yi Xian nodded. Zhou Xian was silent. Yi Xian smiled. What's the matter? Zhou Xian nodded. After the Xianxia kingdom disappeared, my Zhou clan rose. Then our current territory belongs to the Xianxia kingdom. Now that they've come out, Yi Xian said in a low voice, do they want those territories back? Zhou Xian nodded. Yi Xian smiled. Their real target is actually me, right? Because they gave up those territories back then. In other words, their real target isn't those territories. They want me to go with them to find the book of the universe. Zhou Xian nodded again. Yi Xian thought about it and said, I'll go find them. With that, he turned around and rode his sword, disappearing into the horizon in the blink of an eye. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly turned around and Zhou Xian appeared beside him. She looked at Yi Xian. I'll go with you. Yi Xian smiled. Okay. Zhou Xian suddenly asked, the man who spoke just now, is he your father? Yi Xian nodded. Actually, Zhou Xian had been here for a long time. However, she didn't come out when he was talking to his father. Zhou Xian said in a low voice, he's very strong. Yi Xian asked with a smile, how strong? Zhou Xian thought about it and said, I don't know. With that, she looked at Yi Xian. Do you know? Yi Xian shook his head. I don't know either. Zhou Xian glanced at Yi Xian and didn't say anything else. Before long, the two of them arrived at the emperor's tomb. As soon as they arrived, a life-profound realm elder appeared in front of them. The elder looked at Yi Xian and Zhou Xian. What's the matter? Yi Xian smiled. I want to see Di Ming. The elder stared at Yi Xian. Who do you think you are? You want to see him? At this point, his pupils suddenly shrank and he frantically retreated. This retreat took him hundreds of thousands of meters away. When he stopped, a sword had already pierced through his forehead. It wasn't the profound green sword. It was just an ordinary sword. The sudden turn of events caused the expressions of the life-profound realm experts in the dark to change drastically. It wasn't just the Xianxia experts. Even Zhou Xian, who was beside Zhou Xian, had a trace of shock in her eyes. Slashing the future. Zhou Xian had used this move on her before. However, the power of that move wasn't as terrifying as Zhou Xian's. Not only that, Zhou Xian had used that divine sword. Now Zhou Xian was using an ordinary sword. How did Zhou Xian do it? Zhou Xian's heart was filled with questions. Zhou Xian looked at the horrified old man in the distance and smiled. Geezer, next time you speak to me you have to be more polite. As he spoke, the sword between the elder's eyebrows had returned to Zhou Xian's hand. At this time, Diming appeared in front of Zhou Xian and Zhou Xian. Diming looked at Zhou Xian. How did you do it? He had to admit that he was also a little shocked. Zhou Xian's move had reversed time, but it was completely different from their defy the world. Zhou Xian smiled. Diming, I am your target. Why do you have to cause trouble for the Zhou clan? Miss Zhou Xian is my friend. Can you give me some face and stop causing trouble for her and the Zhou clan? Diming stared at Zhou Xian. What if I say no? Zhou Xian raised his thumb and the sword in his hand suddenly disappeared. Diming narrowed his eyes. He couldn't feel Zhou Xian's sword. No one could feel it. Zhou Xian looked at Diming and smiled. Don't worry, let the sword fly for a while. Of course, if you are willing to nod now, I can make it stop. Diming stared at Zhou Xian. What are you pretending to be, Qi? At this time, a few hundred feet behind Diming, a life-profound realm expert's head flew off without a sound. Blood splattered everywhere. Everyone in the field was shocked and quickly retreated. Diming's pupils shrank and he was shocked beyond belief. Zhou Xian was silent. Her heart was in turmoil. Zhou Xian's future slash was even more terrifying than before. He was even more adept at using it. Without a sound, even a life-profound realm expert would not be able to defend against it, even if they were mentally prepared. Zhou Xian looked at Diming and smiled. Clan leader Diming, I am your target. If you have any complaints you can come to me. Don't go to Miss Zhou Xian and her Zhou clan. Is that okay? Then he put his thumb on the scabbard. The experts of the Xianxia kingdom revealed grim expressions as if they were facing a formidable enemy when they witnessed this scene. They were really afraid of Zhou Xian's strange sword. He could kill their future selves with one strike. How could they defend against this? The life-profound realm experts looked at Zhou Xian as if he was a monster. Diming stared at Zhou Xian and clenched his right hand. At this moment, the shock in his heart could not be any greater. How long had it been? How could this guy be so terrifying? Zhou Xian suddenly smiled. Is that okay? Diming fell silent for a moment. Young Master Yi, this is a misunderstanding. A huge misunderstanding. As he spoke, he cupped his fists and said, I apologize to young Master Yi for offending you in the past. I hope young Master Yi won't take it to heart. Zhou Xian turned to look at Zhou Xian and smiled. It's done. Zhou Xian fell silent for a moment. I thought you were going to call for help. Zhou Xian blinked. You helped me because I had someone to rely on, right? Zhou Xian nodded. Zhou Xian smiled and didn't speak. Zhou Xian looked Zhou Xian in the eye. Are you angry? Zhou Xian laughed. I'm not angry because you told me the truth. He smiled again. Let me introduce myself again. I'm Zhou Xian. I'm a second-generation heir. Zhou Xian fell silent for a moment. I'm Zhou Xian. I still want to use you. They looked at each other and smiled. P.S. I'm too ashamed to ask for a vote. Chapter 2100. Zhou Xian and Zhou Xing were about to leave when Diming suddenly asked, Young Master Yi, are you really not interested in the Book of the Universe? The Book of the Universe. Zhou Xian stopped. He turned his head to look at Zhou Xing next to him. What's so special about this Book of the Universe? Zhou Xing answered, I don't know. All I know is that this book is the origin of the civilization in this metaverse. Diming suddenly said, as Miss Zhou said, this book is indeed the origin of the civilization in the metaverse. But it's not just that. As far as I know, this book also records all the realms of the metaverse and the cultivation methods of all realms. Moreover, it is said that this book also has a terrifying ability. That is, as long as someone's name is written in this book, that person will die. Zhou Xian frowned. That mysterious? Diming nodded. To be more precise, anyone who has cultivated the Book of the Universe will die as long as their name is written in it. Besides that, this book has many other mysterious functions. I don't know the specifics. Yi Xian smiled. Why does clan leader Di Ming keep asking me to go with you to find this book of the universe? Di Ming said, to tell you the truth, this book is in a universe space-time. It is an extremely terrifying space-time realm. It is very difficult to enter it. But the sword in young Master Ye's hand can restrain space-time. Yi Xian said softly, so that's how it is. Di Ming glanced at Yi Xian and said nothing more. Yi Xian thought for a moment and said, let's go and have a look. He turned to Zhou Xian and the latter nodded. Let's go. Yi Xian smiled. Then let's go. Di Ming suddenly said, both of you follow me. With that, he led the experts of the Xianxia kingdom and disappeared into the horizon. Yi Xian and Zhou Xian followed. On the way, Zhou Xian looked at Yi Xian wanting to say something but hesitating. Yi Xian smiled and said, do you want to ask me how I was able to control the power of time without using the green profound sword? Zhou Xian looked at Yi Xian and said, if I were to ask this, would it be a little abrupt? Yi Xian smiled and said, I won't. Zhou Xian said in a deep voice, I'm really curious. I don't know about your ability to reverse time and I've never seen it before. However, I'm very clear about the power of the white day spacetime. It's not something that a physical body can withstand. Even a life-profound body can't withstand it, but you can. I really don't understand. Yi Xian said with a smile, I won't be able to bear the power of the white day spacetime alone. However, with the help of another power, a power that is completely opposite to it, I can make them coexist. After a moment of silence, Zhou Xian said, I understand. One goes against the other, achieves a balance and both coexist. Yi Xian smiled and said, yes. Zhou Xian sighed softly. She knew that Yi Xian was the only one who could do this because no one else had the power to reverse time. Zhou Xian seemed to have thought of something and looked at Di Ming and the others in the distance and said, we have to be careful of them. Yi Xian nodded and said, of course. They sped up and about an hour later, Di Ming, who was at the front, suddenly stopped. Not far in front of him was a flight of stairs with no end in sight. Di Ming looked at the stairs and said in a deep voice, this is the passageway to that space-time. As he spoke, he led the experts of the Xianxia kingdom towards the passageway. Yi Xian and Zhou Xian immediately followed. As soon as they set foot on the stone stairs, Yi Xian frowned slightly, because a trace of uneasiness had arisen in the depths of his heart. At his level of strength, he was able to sense some unknown dangers. Beside him, Zhou Xian's brows were also slightly furrowed. At this moment, Di Ming suddenly said, young Master Yi, if I may ask, your father and brother are not from the metaverse, right? Glancing at Di Ming, Yi Xian said with a smile, what? Di Ming smiled and said, nothing, I'm just curious. Yi Xian smiled and said, they are indeed not from the metaverse. Di Ming smiled and said, then I'm a little curious. Yi Xian was also curious. Clan leader Di Ming, is there a universe more powerful than the metaverse? Di Ming nodded and said, yes. Yi Xian smiled and asked, what universe? Di Ming said softly, the ancient universe. Yi Xian frowned slightly. He turned his head to look at Zhou Xian beside him. Do you know? Zhou Xian shook her head. Di Ming smiled and said, it's normal that she doesn't know. The ancient universe is very far away from us and it doesn't allow people from lower-level universes to enter. Yi Xian asked, not even life-profound realm cultivators? Di Ming shook his head and said, no. Yi Xian smiled and said, that's interesting. Di Ming suddenly asked, young Master Yi, are you from the ancient universe? Yi Xian shook his head and said nothing. No. Di Ming nodded and did not say anything, but a cold light flashed in the depths of his eyes. Yi Xian suddenly said, I am from a universe more powerful than the ancient universe. Di Ming's expression froze and he turned to Yi Xian and asked, a universe more powerful than the ancient universe? Yi Xian smiled and said, why? Clan leader Di Ming, do you think that the ancient universe is the most powerful universe in this vast universe? Di Ming was silent for a while and said, I wonder which universe young Master Yi is from? Yi Xian smiled and said, why don't you take a guess? Di Ming looked at Yi Xian and said, I can't. Yi Xian smiled and said, where I come from, life-profound realm cultivators are as common as dogs. Di Ming could not help but ask, life-profound realm cultivators are like dogs? Yi Xian nodded and said, yes. Ming glanced at Yi Xian and did not believe it. He only believed a little of what Yi Xian said. Zhou Xian, who was standing beside Yi Xian, suddenly asked, "What is above life profound realm?" Yi Xian thought for a while and said, "Profound life." Zhou Xian was speechless. About an hour later they stopped. There was a huge stone door not far in front of them. There was a huge black word in the middle of the door. "Hun." Ming said softly, "We are here." Then he turned to Yi Xian and said, "Young Master Yi, this door contains a kind of space-time power. Please use your sword to break it." Yi Xian nodded and walked to the door. Just as he was about to do it, the door suddenly opened. Everyone was stunned. It opened automatically. Ming said in a low voice, "The space-time power is gone. Someone went in." Someone went in? Yi Xian was about to speak when Ming rushed in with the Xianxia experts. Zhou Xian, who was standing beside Yi Xian, asked, "Shall we go in?" Yi Xian smiled and said, "You feel the danger too?" Zhou Xian nodded. Yi Xian thought for a while and said, "We are already here. Let's go in and have a look." As he spoke, he walked towards the wide open stone door. Zhou Xian thought for a while and followed. After passing through the stone gate, a huge blue stone plaza appeared in front of Yi Xian and Zhou Xian. Above this huge stone plaza was a bottomless starry sky. Not far above everyone's heads, a dark blue ball floated in the air. Ming and the others were there. Apart from Ming and the others, there was also a man and a woman. Both of them looked very young. The woman was wearing a tight white dress and her long hair was tied up with a purple ribbon hanging behind her head. In her right hand she was holding a black ancient book. Yi Xian looked at the woman and raised his guard. Damn it! Any woman who read books was not easy to deal with. Along the way, the women who read books were scarier than the last. Sister Nian Qing, the women were not scary. What was scary was women with culture. Both the woman and the man were looking at the orb above their heads with a hint of astonishment in their eyes. Not far away, Ming looked at the two of them with a grave expression. At this time, the woman turned to Ming and the others and asked, "What's the matter?" Ming said in a low voice, "Who are you?" The woman smiled and said, "Kill them." As soon as she finished speaking, the man next to her suddenly disappeared. Ming's pupils shrank and he threw a punch. Boom. This punch caused the surrounding space to tremble violently, and then a figure was blasted away. It was Ming. After Ming flew out, the faces of the experts around him changed drastically. Without hesitation, everyone rushed towards the man. Meanwhile, the man opened his palm and a blood-red thread flew out. After that, a strange scene appeared. Before the profound life stage experts could even react, the blood-red thread had already pierced through the space between their brows. In an instant, 48 life profound realm experts were obliterated. All of them were killed instantly. Yi Xian fell silent. The 48 life profound realm experts had cultivated for 1,000 years, and then they were born and then they died. This life was too dramatic. Ming was stunned as well. They were all dead. Dozens of life profound realm experts were gone just like that. Meanwhile, the man looked at Ming. Ming's face changed drastically and he hurriedly hid behind Yi Xian. "Young Master Yi." The man looked at Yi Xian as if he was looking at an ant. He was about to attack when the woman suddenly said, "Wait." The man stopped. The woman suddenly pointed at the man with her right hand. A sword suddenly appeared between the man's eyebrows, and the sword was stopped by the woman's finger. Cutting the future. The man's pupils constricted. He looked at Yi Xian with a trace of seriousness. The woman looked at Yi Xian and smiled, cutting the future with a sword. "I never thought there would be an expert like you outside the ancient world. How surprising." Yi Xian smiled. "How should I address you?" The woman smiled. "Second Immortal." Yi Xian smiled. "Second Immortal, are you here for the Book of the Universe?" Second Immortal nodded. "Yes." Yi Xian thought about it and was about to speak when Second Immortal suddenly smiled. "I still lack a servant. Are you interested?" Yi Xian was struck dumb right away. "What a guy!" Yi Xian exclaimed. He thought he had made a friend, but the other party wanted to be his master? Second Immortal said, "Being my servant is something that countless people dream of." Yi Xian thought about it and smiled. "I still lack a woman. Are you interested?" Being Yi Xian's woman is something that countless women dream of. Second Immortal looked at Yi Xian.